मैं आगे आ जाता हूँ। अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दिस जेस्चर। चलो मैं आपके बाद में बात। थैंक यू सो मच। अच्छा जी, हाँ बैठो। हाँ नहीं लैपटॉप नहीं चाहिए, बस लैपटॉप नहीं चाहिए। ओके, आज आपको पता है कि हमारा आखिरी क्लास टेस्ट था और मैंने कहा था कि बड़ा सख्त सा क्लास टेस्ट होगा, और ये टेस्ट जो है वो बिस्मा के कहने पे रख रहे थे हम, और लेकिन एट दी 11th आवर भी नहीं कहना चाहिए, कितने आवर पे 12th आवर, 11:45 बजे मुकद्दस टोल्ड मी कि जी हमारा तो कल वहाँ पे है, कॉन्फ्रेंस है, और इस वजह से सो एट द वेरी लास्ट मोमेंट इसने कहा कि जी हम, मैंने कहा जी चलें ठीक है, वो हम बदल नहीं फिक्र ना करें, वो हम प्रॉफ में पूरा कर लेंगे आपसे वो हिसाब हम पूरा कर लेंगे, उधार नहीं रखेंगे आपसे। हाँ ऐसे ना करें, नहीं वैसे कह रहे, नहीं इट वाज जस्ट ऑन द लाइटर नोट। नहीं, एक तो बच्चे डर बड़ी जल्दी जाते हैं। हाँ हाँ क्यों जी निगार, मैं कहा बच्चे डर बड़ी जल्दी से जाते हैं। ओके सो सुबह मुझे सलमान का फ़ोन आया कि जी कल ख्वाजा साहब को, मैं कहा जी ख्वाजा साहब को तो पूरा आपने टाइम दिया है स्पीच तैयार करने का, उन्होंने कौमी तराने भी और वो भी गाए हैं, तो मैंने तो वैसे प्ले भी नहीं करने थे ऐसे, लेकिन ये कि मुझे बिल्कुल टाइम नहीं दिया कि जी मैं शुड स्पीक। और सो मुकद्दस कहाँ पे, वेज मुकद्दस। अच्छा तो पहले आप तारीफ शुरू करेंगे, मैं करूं पहले? नहीं पहले आप शुरू करें, आ जाओ।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आज हम लोग यहाँ पर लास्ट लेक्चर के लिए जमा हुए हैं। एज यू गाइज ऑल नो, भी थोड़ी देर पहले मैंने बताया था, लेकिन सब लोग नहीं पहुँचे अभी तक। लेकिन स्टिल डॉक्टर इमरान शुरू से लेकर अभी तक वन ऑफ द बेस्ट टीचर है हमारे लिए, द स्वीटेस्ट ऑफ ऑल, बहुत ज़्यादा काइंड हार्टेड है सर, और हमारा उनके साथ पूरे साल में और पूरा साल हमारा बहुत अच्छा गुजरा है सर के साथ भी, सर के डिपार्टमेंट के साथ भी। जो बैच सर के डिपार्टमेंट में गया है, एवरीबडी नोज दैट। सर ये बतूल कह रही है कि S2 इज़ द बेस्ट सर्जिकल यूनिट। सब लोग एक दफ़ा खड़े होकर डॉक्टर इमरान असलम के लिए अ बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज।
थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू। थैंक यू सो मच। मैंने कल वाली रिकॉर्डिंग निकाल के देखनी है ख्वाजा साहब। है सलमान, कल वाली रिकॉर्डिंग चाहिए मुझे। जैसे ये लास्ट बैच, ये सबात वगैरह का लास्ट बैच था, तो उसने कहा कि जी सर ये बहुत अच्छा है। मैंने कहा ये यूनिट बहुत अच्छा है। मैंने कहा ये आप हर यूनिट में जाके यही कहते नो ओके, थैंक यू सो मच। ऊपर नीचे से बटर्ड, ऑल बटर्ड। थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच। देखिए मैं एक चीज़, जब मैं एज अ स्टूडेंट आपकी स्टेज पे था, तो देयर इज़ ऑलवेज अ गैप बिटवीन द टीचर एंड द स्टूडेंट। ख़ास तौर पे प्रोफेसर तो हम कमरे के आगे से नहीं गुजरते थे। तो मुझे ये आता था उस वक़्त कि जी मतलब आप, वी ऑलवेज रिस्पेक्ट आवर टीचर्स, और टीचर और पेरेंट ये दो ऐसे शख्सियात हैं या आप समझे अफराद हैं कि जो हमेशा बच्चों की जो प्रोग्रेस करते हैं उस पर खुशी करते हैं। सिर्फ दो लोग। आप अपने बहन भाई भी जब बड़े होते हैं तो उनके अंदर भी आ जाता है कि जी वो मेरी बहन यहाँ पहुँच गई, मैं। टीचर और पेरेंट्स जितना भी प्रोग्रेस करते हैं, आप 10 साल बाद भी आएंगे, यू रिमेंबर मी कि जी सर मैं आपकी टीचर थी और मैं फ़लानी प्रोफेसर बन गई हूँ एंड आई एम बिकम अ सर्जन, और कुछ भी। आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि जी ऑलवेज परसू। देखिए एक होती है ड्रीम्स, ठीक है। अल्लाह ताला ने जो डेस्टिनी लिखी हुई है ना, आप उसको चेंज नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है। तो जो आपकी डेस्टिनी है उसमें खुश रहना चाहिए, ठीक है, बजाय इसके कि ये देख के कि जी दूसरे को क्या मिला, ठीक है। हर एक के हालात फ़र्क होते हैं, सबके हालात फ़र्क होते हैं। तो आप अपनी जो आपकी जो ड्रीम्स हैं, डू फॉलो दैट, डू चेज योर ड्रीम्स, लेकिन उसमें जो चीज़ मिली है उसको ना खो दें, ठीक है। ये बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्यों ये वाली वो बातें जो कि मैं अब आपकी एज पे बंदा बहुत एनर्जेटिक होता है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं जो कि बंदा सोचता है मैं ये कर लूँ, मैं ये कर लूँ, लेकिन बाद में बंदा सोचता है यार वी ऑलवेज रैलिश। मेरे भी फ्रेंड्स 2-3 अमेरिका से आए हैं, तो हम जब इकट्ठे बैठते हैं तो हम हमेशा वो पुरानी बातें याद करते हैं, जबकि सारे लोग इकट्ठे थे, जबकि पैसे नहीं होते थे, हॉस्टलाइज में आखिरी दिनों में बिल्कुल पैसे नहीं होते थे, तो कभी किसी के कमरे से जाके चीज़ उठा ली, कभी किसी के कमरे से उठा ली। आई रिमेंबर कि मैं फ़र्स्ट ईयर में टेट्रा सीटर, आपके तो यहाँ क्यूबिकल्स होते हैं 22 टेट्रा सीटर्स होते हैं, तो वो मेरी माँ ने सर्दियों के दिन थे जब स्टार्ट हुआ तो कहा कि जी वो जो दाल का हलवा है ना ये लेके जाओ और ये रख लो, और ये जब रात को पड़ा करो तो थोड़ा सा। अच्छा मैंने अपने फ्रेंड को एक कुछ खाया, उसके बाद सारे आगे 1 घंटे के अंदर अंदर वो पूरा डब्बा खाली हो गया। मैंने माँ का खबरदार कोई चीज़ मुझे दी थी। सो उसकी हॉस्टल की वो जो हमारा एक दोस्त होता था, सुबह सुबह उठ के कपड़े प्रेस करके रख के वॉशरूम जाना, बाद में पता चलना जी वो शर्ट गायब हो गई। वो एक था हमारा, वो ना सारे कमरों में सुबह देखता था जो जहाँ से अच्छी शर्ट पहने वो जाके, और कॉलेज जाके लड़ाई हो रही थी लेक्चर हॉल के अंदर, वो मेरी शर्ट उतार दूँ। वो एक मेरा दोस्त था रूममेट, बड़ा सुबह सुबह उठ के प्रेस करके और इतनी नफासत से उसको चेयर पे रखता था कि एक सिलवट भी ना पड़े। तो उसकी एक दिन शर्ट गायब हो गई। वो पता चला जी वो पहन के चला गया। सो दीज आर द स्मॉल थिंग्स जब आप लोग इकट्ठे रहे हैं, सो डू रिमेंबर दिस गुड टाइम, ठीक है। और इसके साथ साथ जो जब देखें जब लोग इकट्ठे होते हैं तो बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं कि जो जिसको कहते हैं कोई ना खुशगवार वाक़यात, और वो तो अपना दिल जो है जब आप यू आर सेपरेटिंग फ्रॉम ईच अदर इम्तिहान के बाद, तो एक तो बिल्कुल अपना उसको साफ़ करें ना क्लीन स्लेट के साथ, क्योंकि ये जो वक्त है ये दोबारा से नहीं आएगा, ठीक है। सो विद ऑल द बेस्ट विशेस, मेरी हमेशा से आई ऑलवेज, जैसे आप लोगों ने कहा जी बहुत अच्छा मेरे बारे में कहा है, तो ये भी मैं अब जेन्युइन तारीफ़ करने लगा हूँ कि जो सर्जिकल 2 में बच्चे आते रहे हैं, मेरे पास एक तो टाइम यू नो कि कमिटमेंट्स और भी होती हैं, लेकिन जब भी मेरे पास टाइम होता था ऑलवेज ट्राई टू इंटरेक्ट, और मुझे मतलब आई ऑलवेज ट्राई टू इंटरेक्ट, बच्चों को पढ़ाना या वो करना, और बच्चों को उस लेवल पे पढ़ाना कि जो मतलब ये नहीं कि जो जो उनकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, यू ऑलवेज गेट डाउन टू द लेवल कि जो बच्चों की अंडरस्टैंडिंग है। आप उनको मुश्किल सिंड्रोम पढ़ा रहे हैं या वो कर रहे हैं जस्ट टू इम्प्रेस, लेकिन उनके ऊपर से कोई चीज़ गुजर जाए, वो आई थिंक हर एक अपना अपना एक होता है, लेकिन मेरा ही होता है कि गेट डाउन टू द अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ अ स्टूडेंट, स्टार्ट विद द वेरी बेसिक्स, ठीक है। और कुछ मेरी कमज़ोरी भी है, आप एनाटमी इज़ माई फेवरेट, मतलब आई कांट रेजिस्ट कि जी वो आई ऑलवेज रैलिश जो एनाटमी, मतलब समहाउ जो फर्स्ट ईयर से ही मुझे बहुत पसंद थी। सो उसी वजह से मतलब मुझे कभी भी ये सोचना नहीं पड़ा कि मैंने क्या बनना है। आई ऑलवेज मैंने डिसाइड किया था कि आई हैव टू बिकम अ सर्जन। ठीक है, तो एनीथिंग एल्स यू वांट टू से फ्रॉम? जी ज़रूर, आइए जी। क्लास के साथ कैसे होगी?
सर इस तरफ से मैं बनाऊंगी, आप सब इधर आ जाओ।
तो वो उसको दे देना ना, बाहर से किसको बुला लो। अपना मोबाइल
इसको तो साइड पे करें।
ये ले लो।
इधर आ जाओ।
It was a very nice gesture. Thank you. चलो जी, तकरीबन 10 साल आई वर्क 12 years आई वर्क विद प्रोफेसर खालिद मसूद गोनल। आई वाज हिज एसोसिएट। तो मेरी उनसे तो बहुत पुरानी एसोसिएशन है। और वहाँ मुझे याद है जब आई वाज असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर, पहला दिन था मेरा, और मतलब शुरू के दिन थे, तो वो उन्होंने कहा जी कि वहाँ पे भी एक थीम जैसे आप लोग करते हैं, डिफरेंट थीम, कल्चरल डेज। तो वो मैंने कहा कि मैं शुरू से ही समझ लें कि एंटी सोशल रहा हूँ। तो उन्होंने कहा कि जी मैं मेंबर के, मेरे जो साथ में रहती था, उन्होंने कहा जी आओ चले। वहाँ पे वो बच्चे जैसे डाकू बने होते हैं, तो वो मैं कहा जी मैंने नहीं जाना। अच्छा, कोई 10 मिनट बाद ना फ़ोन आया उनका, ओ यार इमरान साहब आना, 5000 रुपये ले आना, मैंने बच्चों ने पिंजरे च बंद करता। तो उस वक्त से मैं कोशिश करता हूँ ख़ासतौर पर कल्चरल डेज पे मैं नज़र ना आऊँ, लेकिन समहाउ मैं अपने ऑफिस में ही लूट लिया गया। थैंक यू सो मच। क्या बताओ क्या करें? क्या? हाँ तो ले लो। चलो जी, थैंक यू सो मच।
यार बहुत जल्दी है ना, वीडियो बनानी थी लेकिन अब निकल आए 22 को बना लेंगे। चलो सब लोग अपने अपने वेन्यूज़ पे, और जिन लोगों की ड्यूटीज़ है रिसेप्शन में, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, वो सब लोग अपने वेन्यूज़ पर जाएं। रिसेप्शन कमेटी फ्रंट लॉन केन्यू एमके के सामने जाए, डेस्क पर जाके डॉक्टर शकीबा से मिले। चलो तुम डॉक्टर को
Shaitanirajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Everybody settle down, please, so that we can start this on time. इसके अंदर ये रिकॉर्डिंग वाले का Should we start, madam? Madam, should we start? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We all welcome to the Fatima Jinnah Medical University Annual Scientific Symposium today. And this is this is a session about diabetes and non-communicable diseases. And to start the proceedings with the Tilawat Quran, I will request our final year student, Ms. Nigar Fatma, to please do the Tilawat Quran first.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah, and thank you. So this session is for 2 hours actually. We have 4 chairs and we have 7 speakers for this session. And each speaker will have 20 minutes. 15 minutes will be for the actual presentation and 5 minutes will be for the question answer session. I would now like to introduce our chairs for this session today. Our chair from Fatima General Medical University is our chairperson, Dean of Medicine, our director, QEC, and head of medical department, Professor Dr. Bilkis Shabir. Our guest chair today is a former professor of physiology here. She's also member syndicate Fatima General Medical University and former dean of basic medical sciences here. And she is now currently serving as a professor of physiology at Rashid Latif Khan University, Professor Dr. Shiri Khavar. Our CAMCA UK chair for this session is a renowned endocrinologist. He is based in UK, Dr. Rahat Ali Thoni. Our student chair for this session is Ms. Zoina Sarfraz. She is a very good researcher and has more than 100 publications in the peer-reviewed journals. Ms. Zoina Sarfraz. We have 6 speakers today who will be highlighting different aspects of diabetes, its prevalence, its management, and it will be a wonderful session indeed. And our first speaker of today is Dr. Rahat Ali Thoni, and he will be presenting on does Pakistan have the highest prevalence in the world of diabetes review of evidence. Please welcome Dr. Rahat Ali Thoni.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here and allowing us to conduct a session on diabetes and non-communicable diseases. It's always an honor to come here to your parent institutions and share your experience. Today, it's just about how bad the diabetes is in Pakistan at the moment, that not only people in Pakistan, but also everywhere in the world are very much concerned. So as you all know, diabetes is a chronic metabolic disease characterized by elevated blood sugar levels. Most common is type 2 diabetes, which is characterized by mostly insulin resistance, which later on also leads to lack of insulin. It's a major cause of complications and healthcare expenditure, including retinopathy, you have amputations, cardiovascular disease, including the peripheral vascular disease and strokes, etc. It's a serious public health problem, as I said, and a major healthcare burden, not just in Pakistan, but everywhere. The UK has spent about 1.5 billion pounds. 1.5 billion pounds is just 1 year on diabetes. It's a huge, huge amount of money. So the data has all been taken from IDF, which is the International Diabetes Federation. It suggests that about 500 million people currently living with diabetes. We're talking about adults. That's about 10% of adults. So every 10th person in the world now has diabetes. And about 319 million have impaired fasting glucose, and a further 500 million people have impaired glucose tolerance. Lights off, kar sir? So this is happening, what is happening worldwide. We have a lot of concentration here in this part of the region. This is Asia, Northern Africa, and Western Pacific. What is alarming is that there has been a dramatic rise in the last 3-4 decades. The prevalence was only about 108 million in 1980, and it's now 537 million. There has been dramatic rise in the lower and middle income countries, and you can see that approximately 75% of people with diabetes are living in the lower and middle income countries, which is again a big problem. And as the time is going ahead, more and more young population is coming up especially with type 2 diabetes. Now this target came up in 2021. This has now been extended to 2030 because we are no longer able to achieve these targets. So these targets keep on pushing backwards. In 2021, worldwide, there were 6.7 million deaths. 67 लाख लोग जो है वो सिर्फ 2021 में डायबिटीज़ की वजह से फौत हुए. You can see how big the problem is. There has been 3% rise in diabetes-related mortality in the last 2 decades worldwide, but about 13% rise in the lower and middle income countries, and Pakistan is unfortunately a part of it. This is the diabetes map worldwide. This suggests the prevalence of diabetes all over the world. Which one is the most red? Pakistan. There we go. We've got some African countries. We've got some Central American states, some in the Pacific states. But you can see this is the most red, and it stands out from its neighboring countries for some reason. In Pakistan, 33 million adults have diabetes. 33 million adults. That ये तकरीबन 3.3 करोड़ लोग बनते हैं. Adults. That's about 30.8% of the adults. And 1/4 of them are undiagnosed. A further 10.3%, which is about 11 million, have impaired glucose tolerance. As you compare it with the world average diabetes population has an age of 64 years. In Pakistan, it's about 53.5. So younger people have diabetes. Pakistan has highest diabetes-related mortality below the age of 65 years. 1/3 of the people will die of diabetes in Pakistan. So you can see how huge the problem is and how quickly people are dying out of it. Again, this is the prevalence, and I'll talk about it more in the later slide. You can see over the last couple of decades in general, there has been not much rise in the diabetes. But over the last just 5 years, it has gone up from less than 10% to more than 30%. Now, you can argue some of it is due to this COVID here, but even after COVID, I don't think we have changed much. And this is not just related to our genetics, because you can't see change in genetics within the couple of years' time. So a huge rise here in the last 5 years. If you compare it with other countries, I've put in a lot of countries here. India we compare often with us, and then Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all have lower incidence of diabetes. There has been a slight increase in prevalence over the years, but not much. But you can see Pakistan has gone up from here. It used to be less than 10% to here in just 10 years. There is an interesting country I will talk about here is Nauru. I'm not sure if you've heard of Nauru. It's a small island state in Pacific, just to the northeast of Australia. In 1900s, it had huge phosphate reserves that were detected because of the bird poo, essentially. So it was then taken over by British people, then German people, then Australian people. They drilled all the phosphate from there. The island nation became rich all of a sudden. Everybody became obese because they started to eat rubbish or whatever. There were huge corporations, McDonald's and all sorts of stuff there. And then their obesity incidence rose to about 70, 80%. And their diabetes incidence was about 40, 50% at one point. But they have also come down over time. We are still above that nation. Similar is the case with French Polynesia. That has also got slightly higher incidence, but Pakistan is still on the top. This is the world ranking in terms of prevalence of diabetes. Pakistan used to be around, 10, over 10 and below 10, but now we are number one. At least we are number one in something. And again, this is the absolute numbers. So again, it always used to be around less than 10 million. अब जो है वो 3 करोड़ पे पहुंची हुई है बात. 3 crore. And again, absolute numbers, Pakistan, over the last 3 years, has taken over United States. United States has more population than Pakistan. And interestingly, if you compare it with India, India की जो आबादी है हमसे 6-7 गुना ज़्यादा है. लेकिन diabetes जो है वो सिर्फ 2 गुना से थोड़ी सी ज़्यादा है. So it's a huge, huge problem in Pakistan. This is the current projection by the IDF. You see a dramatic rise in the last 10 years. It is going that way, but I think it is already going that way. If you look at the actual numbers, they are not stopping. You can attribute some of it to COVID, lack of exercise, lack of activity, and eating food. But I suggest that it is going this way, and it's not coming down at all. So why do we have so much diabetes? You can argue that it's all genetics, but I think it's more to that. We unfortunately can't change our genes, but we can change our other factors. There's been rise in fast food. There's been lack of activity. There are a lot of cultural factors. अगर कोई खाता ना हो तो उससे कहते हैं ये माड़ा हो गया, खाता नहीं है, healthy नहीं है. That is what our perception is. On one hand, there is rapid urbanization and rising incomes on the middle, especially the middle, जो middle class लोग होते हैं. They're eating fast food, fizzy drinks and all of that. And on the other hand, there is rising inflation and political instability, which means that poor people can't afford to have good food. All they can eat is potatoes and chini or ye wo. There's lack of screening, lack of effective primary care, lack of diabetes registry. And we have challenges after the diagnosis of diabetes. Cost of treatment is huge. People don't have access to glucometers and sticks, don't have access to insulin. I'm sure Atif and my other colleagues will talk about it. And the availability of medications, access to medications, especially the newer ones, is again a huge challenge. And there is lack of monitoring of complications. जब तक लोगों के पैर गल नहीं जाते, डॉक्टर के पास हो जाते नहीं. So what can we do? We can't change our genes, but we can change our lifestyle. I hope we can. As they say, prevention is better than cure. Healthy diet, eating healthily. Portion size is another big problem in Pakistan. जहाँ एक चावल की प्लेट से पेट भरता है, हम 2 चावलों की प्लेट खाते हैं, दोबारा भरते हैं. जहाँ 1 रोटी से पेट भरता है, हम दोबारा 2 रोटी खाते हैं. और ये नहीं, और बार-बार खाते रहते हैं. खाने के लिए जीते हैं, जीने के लिए नहीं खाते. So less carbs, of course, regular physical activity. Even if we follow the recommended physical activity, which is about 30 minutes for 5 days at least a week. Maintaining healthy weight. As you know, the healthy weight and BMI according to the Asia-Pacific criteria is 22 kilogram per meter square, not 25. That's for Caucasians. That's not for us. And avoiding tobacco and other harmful chemicals. And once you get diagnosed, you continue the good lifestyle, monitoring of glucose as appropriate, and then take appropriate treatments as advised by the appropriate professionals. Prevention for and screening for all the complications I have put in here as well. What can we do at the population level? That's the basic thing that we have to do. Rather than getting people to the stage of diabetes, we need to act before that. And that's where comes the population education. That should start from universities, from schools, from madrasas, from mosques. In the UK, we have community education programs. हम मस्जिद में जाके लोगों को बताते हैं, क्योंकि we know that, Muslim population and ethnic population are more likely to develop diabetes. They are more likely to have bad lifestyle as well. So वहाँ पे तो मस्जिदें भी हमें इजाज़त देती हैं कि हम ये programs करें. तो why can't we do it in Pakistan? पाकिस्तान में सिर्फ मस्जिदें ऐलान करने के लिए तो नहीं बनी है. No disrespect to any religion, but I think we need to act fast and we need to act today. We should have effective primary care sector and screening programs, and we can start. There are some screening programs running. I'm aware of the screening program being run by Professor Abdul Basit in Bakai Institute of Diabetes and Endocrinology, and I'm sure there will be other screening programs in the other parts of the country, but there needs to be a collective effort to do it on the national level. Again, there is a diabetes registry with the name of DROP by Dr. Abdul Basit. But we need to develop a national registry. We need to know how many people we have diabetes in true, and we need to know the people who are, the percentages who are undiagnosed as well. There is also a role of secondary care, especially not only before diagnosis, but also after diagnosis and treatment, and in terms of monitoring complications and prevention of those complications. Role of private sector and private-public partnership needs to be explored further. I'm aware of some of the organizations working in this regard, but again, this needs to be rolled out on a national basis. It should be role of pharmaceutical industry, especially access to medications, insulin, and other essential diabetes medications. There are some charities. We have Atif Munir from Meethi Zindagi, and we have people from Peshawar, AIMS Hospital. They'll talk about it today. But there's a huge scope, again, with the role of charities for prevention and treatment of diabetes. I'll briefly touch on sugar tax. There was a sugar tax introduced in the UK in April 2018. What they did was they said that we'll put extra we'll put extra purchase price on people on things that have extra sugar in it. For example, fizzy drinks. So any fizzy drink that has more than 8 grams of sugar is sold at a higher price, and then that has between 5 and 8 grams that's sold at a moderate price, and then fizzy drinks that have lower amount of sugars are sold at a lower price. And it has shown to have an impact, especially in teenagers, that has a high use of fizzy drinks. So that is one thing that can be considered from the government level. I did discuss it with the Governor of Punjab when I was visiting there the day before. But again, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who would object to this sort of thing in Pakistan, where all people can eat is these cheap things, including sugar. So there are, of course, other considerations. I won't take long on this, but pregnancy is again a huge problem. Diabetes in pregnancy, as more and more women are getting pregnant when they're older, and incidence of type 2 in younger population. So there is sort of more cross overlap and more women with diabetes, and there is not much awareness. अक्सर ये सुना जाता है कि वहाँ भी यूके में भी ऐसे ही है कि अगर आपके बच्चे बड़े पैदा हों तो बच्चा बड़ा हेल्दी है. We don't know that growth is not healthy growth, that is unhealthy growth. And type 1 diabetes, I won't talk about it because we have people who will talk about it. And then more and more type 2s are being diagnosed in the younger phase, less than 18, less than 15 years of age, huge obesity, insulin resistance. COVID, again, had a huge impact on incidence of diabetes. Not only it had an influence on people's lifestyles, eating unhealthy food and exercising less, but also inherently COVID does have insulin resistance effect. We also give steroids that can, in treatment of acute COVID, which can have implications on insulin resistance. There is also evidence that COVID-19 has a direct pancreatic or lytic effect, as in the beta cells in some people can be shut off, causing insulinopenic diabetes, which you can say type 1 or whatever you want to say, type 3C. And then obesity has been on a huge rise in Pakistan. If you look at the numbers, about 42% percent of people, of men have diabetes, and 57% of women have diabetes, and up to 73% of people have central obesity. I'm quoting the numbers based on the BMI cutoff of 22, not 25, just to be mindful of that. We do have Professor Naeem Afzal who will talk about diabetes cure, so I won't talk about it. But again, just to say that diabetes is a huge problem in Pakistan, and people are worried, not just in Pakistan, but everywhere. But there seems to be lack of urgency on the need to do something about it. Or what all people do is talk about, renal failure, dialysis, but nobody talks about arresting the process at the start and not at the end. Because prevention, as I said, is better than cure. And I think Western countries, people with higher income countries have realized that if you spend money on the prevention, it can prevent a lot of cost on the treatment side. I'm open to any questions. Thank you very much. As you say. आप जैसे कहें, I'm open. जी जी, please.
Sampling more in urban areas, not omitting our rural areas. Can that be a substantial rise beyond comprehension? 30 million, 30%, markedly rise. So can there be a methodology flaw?
Excellent question. Yes, indeed. That's what I thought when the first lot of the data came on. When they showed that the incidence was 19.9%, then I thought that it was either because there had been a recent census. We had, Pakistan had census in 2017. Maybe that was because they calculated the population wrong. This one. So, and then I thought it might be due to COVID, but then it went there. I seriously started to consider that it's not a flaw. It's not because we've calculated it wrong. I think it's been calculated properly. I think that's one of the things. You talked about the urban and rural population. In fact, incidence of diabetes in the rural population is higher than the urban population. And I can't comprehend why that is so. Because you would imagine, people in the cities have more cars, they have more access to fast food. And farmers, they'll probably be walking more, they'll be exercising more, their diet might be better, more vegetables in that. But that's beyond comprehension, again. And I don't think that's a reporting issue, because or maybe that there might be. But consistently in Pakistan, the diabetes in rural population has been suggested to be more than that of in the urban population. One thing. The other thing is genetics in Pakistan are slightly different to that of India, and that has been taken into consideration by the IDF. IDF includes Pakistan in the Middle East and Northern Africa, MENA region, not in the South Asian countries and one of the reasons is slight change in genetics. But also because during COVID, Pakistani population hasn't really done anything, to be fair. Honestly speaking, India has been far ahead of us in everything, including IT and things. If you see Pakistan, there are a lot more shops of food if you compare it to India. Even if there were no differences in genes, I think our lifestyle is poorer if you compare it to India. So I think that explains it a little bit too. There might be a problem in methodology as well. I'm not arguing against it, but I think there is an inherent problem.
Just one comment that the data that from Pakistan that have seen about the prevalence last 5 years, that shows that impaired glucose tolerance population is rising in our country as compared to impaired fasting glucose population. So impaired glucose tolerance that relates to pancreatic function, in my understanding.
Very good question, actually. I'll tell you what happened. A few years ago, insulin, जो IGT group था ना वो यहाँ पे था. अब IGT group यहाँ पर है. So IGT group hasn't changed. What has happened is that though that IGT group has actually become florid diabetes. So I still think that predominantly it's an insulin resistant type of diabetes rather than insulin deficient type of diabetes. There has been some cases of insulin deficient diabetes as well, especially related to COVID, etc. But I still think it's predominantly the impaired glucose tolerance type of diabetes. The incidence of impaired glucose has remained very similar, but incidence of florid diabetes has gone up, which means all of these people that had impaired glucose tolerance before have now become people with diabetes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make a comment regarding both the points pointed out by our worthy colleagues. One thing definitely is that there is more honesty because there's to some extent, even Pakistan is not that backward in technology now.
Agree.
You know, every individual, वो जो गाड़ी भी ठीक कर रहा होता है ना, उसके पास भी ये टच का मोबाइल है. So one is that. Number two is that even if we go to the villages and गाँव, the moment you enter, तो सबसे पहले वो ना ट्रे लेके फिर रहा होता है, वो जो cream rolls होते हैं, ठीक है ना? और अंदर जाए तो बड़ी delicacy होती है कि आपको पहले लस्सी पिलाया करते थे, अब they serve you with coke. वो बड़ी एक honor होता है. एक बार मैं गई और इतने coke पिए कि I myself had osmotic diarrhea. और तीसरी चीज ये होती है कि इतना इंटरनेट एक्सेस है कि जो घर की बच्चियां पहले साग बनाती थी, now they are more interested in making cakes और वो आप YouTube
Agreed.
तो आपको पता चलेगा
Agreed.
वो कहेंगे तनूर में केक कैसे बनता है. And you know, thank you बच्चियां जो है ये जोर से सर हिला रही हैं, so they know they are very much aware of these ये जो पहले हम कहते हैं ना bakery products only to शहर. So perhaps that is the reason कि दोनों जो आफ्ताब साहब और नईम साहब ने जो point out किए ना, the fact that the impaired as well as full-blown diabetes is more इसमें the lifestyle, and it comes back to one of your first slides that the lifestyle has to be modified, lifestyle medicine. Preventive medicine, we have to go back at the grassroots level. और वही वाली बात बचपन से बिलाल साहब हमें सिखाते थे, prevention is better than cure. So वो again we have to go back. But गाँवों में we are seeing this, and I don't know what COVID has done to the genes, what other viral infections are doing to the genes. Right now in Lahore, we have an epidemic of upper respiratory tract infection.
There is.
It is non-COVID, and it doesn't come up with any flu kits. So I don't know what's happening. So are these viruses leaving the genomes alone? I won't say no. I mean, we do not know. So maybe something in some interplay with the genes as well, besides all the lifestyle and everything.
Yeah, I think it's a genetic change in makeup is possible, but I think it's our lifestyle. I don't think our genes have changed over the last 5 years much, but our lifestyle has changed dramatically. And that is what is different in Pakistanis as compared to our neighboring regions and elsewhere. Thank you very much.
Another point is stress element in Pakistan. In the last 10 years, stress element in Pakistan, I think it is also...
Stress can cause insulin resistance not only directly, but also making people eat when they're stressed. A lot of people eat when they're stressed. So that's a direct and indirect correlation with insulin resistance. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
Dr. Rahat, thank you very much for a wonderful talk. Our next speaker for this session is a very senior endocrinologist based in Lahore. He's a former principal of Father Memorial Medical College, and he's currently serving in the Amna Inayat Medical College as professor of medicine. And he will be delivering talk on mobile units for diabetes care. Welcome, please, Professor Bilal bin Yunus.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and thank you very much for inviting me here. This place is not a new place for me. my task is very difficult to complete this in 15 minutes and then take questions, because this is something which is a bit naive to our medical students and to our colleagues. I joined Fatima Jinnah as a senior registrar in 1996, and then served for 4 years, 3 years as senior registrar and further 4 years as assistant professor, and then left in 2003. And there was less chance to come here again, but for a few years I do keep on coming, and these lecture halls are very, very familiar. Professor Bilkis, one of the best students of that time, the best graduate, and her father was my teacher and some sort of a mentor for me as well. So it's something which is very, very playable for me to be here and give a talk. So thank you very much for inviting. So my topic is the mobile health units. You can use it for diabetes care, you can use it for NCDs, you can use it for any other purpose of communicable diseases or for anything. So I have outlined a few uses of mobile health unit. We are ourselves involved. When I was a medical director and chief operating officer at Shalimar Medical College, we also have an experience of running this unit. So I am here to give you a few problems which we faced and which you have to face probably if you want to go in this. But again, this is something which is extremely beneficial for the community, for the primary health, and for the doctors as well. So this is what we see a service platform. This is pictures from Sri Lanka, and they are running it very successfully. So if you see, this is a mobile unit and serve as a primary post as well. And there are a lot of facilities in these, and I will just let you know what we have done at Shalimar, a model of that as well. But most of the time it failed in quite a few areas, and especially in Pakistan. And there are quite a few reasons for that. It did fail in India, but they kept on doing it, and now they are quite successful. So I think this is not something which is very difficult to run and have got a lot of benefits as well. Now, if you remember the Alma-Ata, the WHO, what they say, that it's the health education, water sanitation, nutrition, maternal child health, immunization, screening, treatment, and essential drugs. Now, if we look at our basic health units, what do we find out of this? Maybe a few drugs and medication and absent doctors. So that is a dilemma. And that is why the College of Physicians and Surgeons, they have made it a compulsion to get into an FCPS training, so have 2 years of basic health experience in BHUs. But how many of you, especially our female colleagues, they can go there and do actual 2 years of BHU? And how many of you are in favor of getting FCPS training once you have done your 2 years of basic health units? Only 2 or 3, right? Okay, so rest are do not agree to that, and it's not only a disagreement, but there are a lot of reasons of modifying this. There are a lot of ways of modifying this problem. So let's discuss that. Now, this is a model of a healthcare, and if you see, it starts with the health post, health centers, level 1, and then tertiary hospitals. Now, we have adopted the same, and in our country, it's health post, which we call as a basic health units. Then are the health centers, which are RHCs, rural health centers, and level 1, which are the Tahsil care and district care hospital, and then comes these places like a tertiary care hospitals. But what you will agree, we are all working here as a primary care. Do you have any filters Did the people come through those systems or the GP system? No. In your OPDs, there are 300 and 400 patients. And are we able to take care or give a proper medicine or advice to those 300 patients? The answer is no. So where is the fault? Now, this is what we, after a few changes, we started at Shalimar, and this is the type let me see. And after quite a few changes, this is a simple unit, and this is based on an Isuzu truck, and then there was a container which is attached to it, and you see there's a lot of space there. This is the toilet, this is the commode, the hand washing. This is pharmacy. This is drinking water. This is the area of reception. Now this is a laboratory. And then you see this is the doctor's room where you can, and all air conditioned. And the patient comes here, you can have a look. And this is the examination room with ultrasound facilities and with ECGs, and even a screen here you can see which enables you to go with telemedicine. So this is what we started there, and but there were quite a few problems there. Now, before you run a health unit or before you run a mobile care unit for diabetes or for that matter for any other thing, you see there is the first things are the qualitative and quantitative surveys. So to make it successful, you all need to be very aware of the fact that it should not fail. And why the most of, we will discuss that in a while. The population need assessment is the study of the disease pattern and assessment of health needs. As Dr. Rahat just told you, that from age 20 to 70, every fourth person is a diabetic. And that makes it 25% of the population from 20 to 70 either is a diabetic or is in pre-diabetes state. Now, that is, if you do a need assessment, you will come to the fact that we are facing in NCDs the hypertension and diabetes at very top. Then is the mental health. But the top of it is the family planning. How to make the surveys? How to make this assessment? You do the both type of surveys, disease pattern, availability of the doctors. This is an impediment in the success of health units. What? Which is availability of doctors. Now, I leave it to you how this could be an impediment in the progression of these systems. The roads, obviously, you have to look at that whether the mobile units can go there or just it is a concept. Then the local government involvement, literacy rates, and then once you start it, you need to do your own mobile service audit. And unless you keep on doing those audits, it could never be successful. Baseline parameters, you have to collect the data, and you all know how to do that. Obviously, I'm very, very excited to see that one of the students panelists is having more than 100 publications, and that is something which is very, we can take pride that once there was an Indian researcher and he said that, well, he told me, Dr. Yunus, the research you do every year in all over Pakistan, our one university does that in 1 year. But this is so heartening to see that in Fatma Jinnah, we have got good teachers, good researchers, and it's progressing so well. Scheduling, again, you have to look for once a week, twice a week, and it all depends on, or thrice a week, the funds available. So if you are over-enthusiastic, you start it every day or start it 3 or 4 times, then probably in the beginning you have to come across a few problems of funding and finance. And again, this is something very clear. You have to address and keep in mind, what do you want to do? The people have a lot of expectations. They see a good truck, and this is what practically we saw. So what they say, they come over with an appendicitis, and they have an idea that, well, this mobile unit will do the surgery here. So you have to be very, very clear that what do you want to do with it. Unless you are very clear that what do you want to do with your mobile unit, I think it's a recipe of failure. Again, you have to narrate very clearly that this is not for emergency services. So once the population, if they are disheartened and you have not made it clear, then it is something which is definitely going to fail. Now, again, this was C. Morrison's India's mobile health system, a very, very famous one, and it failed because the people had a lack of interest, and they did not come again once they visited first, because they have not were able to highlight that what this mobile van is for. And then again, when you are doing some targets, then you have to have very measurable parameters or results so that you can alter your services as well. Community meeting, so on education, I think once there was, I don't remember the name exactly, but it's a world-renowned diabetologist who said that the only treatment for diabetes is education, highlighted by Dr. Rahat, that lifestyle, prevention, what does it take? Education, awareness. So if you do this education in the community and find some time to do that, I think that would be a great achievement in preventing diabetes. Then again, both in hypertension, same holds true. But what I expect is that after mental health, family planning, I think there is a lot of responsibility in our society on our female colleagues. This is a bomb. It's a bigger bomb than every other problem, because what we are facing, the political instability, the scarcity of the food shortages, the problem of health, and whatever, you name it, and end of the day, you will think that there is a mismatch between the demand and supply. So the demand, there are so many people here that even you cannot fulfill all their requirements. I just can tell you one thing, that there was a survey, as Dr. Rahat told us, that Professor Abdul Basit, they made a survey of cost, and to treat the diabetic foots at a present scenario in this country is equivalent to the whole healthcare budget. So where do we stand? The primary care, all the things, and the family planning. If you have so many people around, even I think, and the resources, whatever resources you have, that you will exhaust those. And the healthcare unit, the mobile healthcare, could provide you a very good platform for that. And again, once you start it, you have to fix. It should not be random that where will you refer the patients to secondary or tertiary care. And the publicity, as I always told you, that this already told you that it is extremely important. So pre-testing pilot clinics, again, are important, and this is all technical. And then as when I was working here in the OPD, we started a diabetic clinic. There was one PMRC diabetic clinic, and then we started a diabetic clinic. So what we did, we maintained the record, and not only the record, but applied this because we are also working as a primary care, to be very honest, in our country. It's a tertiary care hospital, but we are working as a primary care. So booking nurse, doctor's visits and investigations. So unless or until you have a proper system. So Professor Humayun Maqsood was the CEO here, and I told him, sir, do you want me not to see 100 patients, or do you want me to see 20 patients? So he agreed to that, but there were other problems, you know. So there were logistics which you need to see, plan of action in case of breakdowns, support facilities, cartridges, and above all, the medication supply. So you have to think before you start about all these things. Monitoring, again, collaborations, the patient feedback. I think this is extremely important, not only in the health units, but also in the institutions, the bigger institutions, the feedback. And the feedback, you can always improve on the feedback, provided you have already educated the patients. In England, Dr. Rahat will bear me out that you now go to an emergency and the nurse see you, and at least even if you have a fracture, there is a 4 to 5 hour wait. And here, if there is a fracture and the patient is in pain, you give them injection and the doctor didn't come, so they just start breaking the emergency department. So this is the patient education, and this is what we need the most, starting from the primary area. And once you are in a mobile, then you are more in touch with the community. So again, one more thing is important, and that is involving the local people, involving the local health resource and involving the local businesses, which will probably make it more successful. So this is what has happened. Recently I was looking in the newspaper, and I thought it's worth mentioning that after failing to manage the costly procured mobile health unit, so the cost of our mobile health unit was 10 million, and the government procured probably the same, imported it in 50 million, 5 crore or 1 crore. The government has decided to outsource these health facilities to the private firms and NGOs. Now, what happened? The Punjab government would outsource 6 MHU's vehicles in the social sector. So why? You can think about it. So this is what you need: a senior medical officer or a senior house officer, nurse, midwife, auxiliary 2, male nurse, assistant, and that is all you need, rather than building 10 primary health care units where you are not doing anything. You can have 1 mobile and a very less staff. So that is how you can cater for all these problems, not only NCDs, but the communicable diseases. And what is the biggest advantage? Let me come to that. And that is the team which is sitting in the tertiary care, which are sitting at their own places and doing the telemedicine, right? So what you can do is, even at the primary centers, you can get hold of the telemedicine. And as Professor Bilkis said, that everyone has a mobile phone. We are not very lacking behind in technologies, so we can give all those facilities, especially if there is one medical officer and a specialist is communicating there, I think the things will become a lot easier. So this is a survey. I'm sorry if I'm taking more time, but this is a survey which we did once we started our mobile health unit. So this is a survey of district of Gujarat. So there are 2 tehsils in Gujarat. So there are 47 basic health units in Gujarat, 5 RHCs, which are rural health centers. Tehsil Khariyan, 36 and 3. Tehsil Sarai Alamgir, 7 and 1. The total health facilities of the government of Punjab in district Gujarat is 99. More or less? ज़्यादा है कम है? Right, okay, so let's see the results. Number of doctors provided 100% are coming to these areas. As in Gujarat district, there are health facilities 99, so 117 doctors. 117 doctors. So keeping in mind 1 in BHU and 4 in RHCs. So it comes to 117. So in 2017, when we did the survey, the total population of Gujarat district was 2.7 million. And the total area was 3,192 kilometers square. So what is the bitter reality? 23,509% per doctor of Government of Punjab. So what is the ratio in better or what we call developed countries? In France, it's 200 per doctor. 23,509 patients for 1 doctor. 1 doctor of Government of Punjab is available in 27.2 kilometers square. किसी को रात को तकलीफ हो जाएगी तो क्या करेगा? Now to fill the primary care health service gap, help the public set up a primary care, the practical approach to deliver primary health services in underprivileged population, and that is the goal of health of mobile health units. This is what we focused on when we started, and we did not do this or this, so it was all 96 hours, 96 working days for the mobile health unit, depending on our funds. So education, 16 days, and diagnostic and screening 80 days. So it was 156. Just two last slides. Gender, usually highlighted in our society, female colleagues. The problem of privileged and underprivileged gender, which you have broken so far very effectively. There were petitions in Court of Laws कि लड़कियों को जब वो 2/3 ऑक्युपाई कर लेती हैं हर जगह पे तो आप लड़कों का कोटा रख दें. So at least 50-50 तो करें, which you won. And there is a nonsense like doctor's bride. So you might have heard about it. There are a lot of foreign media who is publishing these things. And I had a paper and an article in a medical journal talking against it. And the hurdles of BHU services, as I just told you. Now, is there a solution? Yes, it could be solved. How? Telemedicine through mobile health units. So that is the biggest advantage for you. How? You will have a flexible timing. In England, there are flexible timings of the doctors, and they are given full credit for that, right? For any training purposes. Problem of residence in BHU. Those people who deny to go to BHU, what is the main problem? The security, going there, residing there. Commute to the difficult areas. So why not work from home? Why not the people in the corridors of power like Professor Bilkis speak out that, well, we should give flexible timings and flexible work and work from home, and that should be counted as a training program to get into FCPS, and that is something which you can fulfill your 2 years experience while here in your places, and you can start with a good nurse and telemedicine. So you will become eligible for training. Okay, so self-sustainability, again, there was something which we shared and it became self-sustainable. So thank you very much. So I'm sorry I took more time. So any questions, or we can take it at the end, as you like. Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much. It was very heartening to listen to your lecture sitting on this side. Takes me back to 26 years. Sir, when you talked about telemedicine, and it was very interesting when I was reading through the ADA guidelines in 2019, in the beginning of 2019, when the COVID had not struck in as a pandemic, telemedicine had been recommended in American Diabetes Association guidelines as a form of, as a modality of monitoring and follow-up of patients. And I'll just share my little experience at King Edward with
Thank you so much, Professor Bilkis. Yes, telemedicine, we used it in COVID, and as you rightly said, and we are still. The bus last. So, welcome, Professor Gondal. So very kind of you to come here. I've given some messages to Professor Bilkis regarding the CPSP training program, and I think she will convey it to you. So I think, yes, I totally agree. And the telemedicine is now not only the present, but the future as well. So totally agreed. Any other question? Yeah, yeah, in a spoke and hub model. Yes, it is sponsored by the, it does not take a lot of funds now because we have made it self-sustainable. As in the last slide, I showed that what are the charges. Given 100 rupees, it's all education. So if you take care of your health, you can go and buy 300 rupees food at one time, and you can't spend 100 rupees on your health.
Mr. Thank you very much for the warm talk. We warmly welcome our worthy Vice Chancellor, Dr. Khalid Masood here. And I would like Dr. Khalid Masood now to say a few words about diabetes and this session, please.
There are two diseases in Pakistan. One is diabetes and second is hypertension. जो कि सारे सिस्टम को इन्वॉल्व करते हैं. You start from the brain, CVA, cataract, eye, background retinopathy, or proliferative retinopathy, or silent infant, Cayman sleep, Wilson syndrome, peripheral similarly atherosclerosis, peripheral vascular disease. और इसके लिए लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन इज द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट. टेलीमेडिसिन की बात की प्रोफेसर विकीस तस्करा कर रही थी टेलीमेडिसिन का एक्सपीरियंस आई स्टिल रिमेंबर दिस इज 18 मार्च 2018 जब चौधरी सरवर साहब के कोविड आउटडोर बंद हॉस्पिटल बंद यू एस्टैब्लिश द डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीमेडिसिन वी स्टार्टेड दैट फ्रॉम किंग एडवर्ड मेडिकल यूनिवर्सिटी यूएचएस डिपार्टमेंट. उसको चूंकि किंग एडवर्ड का एक्सपीरियंस था तो तकरीबन 23,000 पेशेंट दे कंसल्टेड टू और इसमें 83 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स थे 33 कंट्रीज के लोग थे एंड दैट वाज ए वंडरफुल एक्सपीरियंस. चाइना से लोग चाइनीज लैंग्वेज में भेज रहे थे और हमारे वो स्टूडेंट जो चाइना से तालीम हासिल करके आए थे उनको ट्रांसलेट कर रहे थे इन उर्दू और इंग्लिश एंड आवर डॉक्टर वाज गिवन शॉर्ट टाइम इनकी अपॉइंटमेंट वैसे तो प्रोफेसर तबिंदा मुझे बैठे हुए नजर आ गई हैं और आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू सी डॉक्टर तबिंदा इज माय क्लास फेलो एंड शी इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट स्टूडेंट ऑफ माय क्लास और एंडोक्राइनोलॉजिस्ट खुद भी है और डायबिटीज की बात हो रही है लेकिन आई एम श्योर तबिंदा भी इस बात को एग्री करेंगे कि रात 12 बजे कंसल्टेशन मुश्किल है बिलाल की कंसल्टेशन पाकिस्तान में आसान है इसलिए वी रिसीव टेलीफोन कॉल फ्रॉम द तो टेलीमेडिसिन का इतना अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस था और रखा रात भी इस पर नाम ठीक है खराब तो ये भी आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू सी कैंपर यूके के हमारे जो दोस्त इस पर तशरीफ फरमाए. उसके बाद वी कंटिन्यू विद दैट और किंग एडवर्ड में आज भी है टेली कंसल्टेशन इस पर पार्टनर यूनिवर्सिटी में भी है. सो टेली कंसल्टेशन इज द फ्यूचर एंड वन ऑफ द इम्पोर्टेंट कंपोनेंट ऑफ आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस जहाँ भी आप बात. So thank you Bilal and I am very happy to see the Campra UK is very active health reform पे इन्होंने सेमिनार पहले 3 की एडवर्ड में कराया इसके बाद ऑडिटोरियम में गया वो भी फुल था यहाँ लेक्चर हॉल में भी आई थिंक 4 एट टाइम जो सेशन जा रहे हैं इन पे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं एंड आई एम वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू Campra UK. थैंक यू.
नोट वो राहत अभी बता रहे थे कि डायबिटीज़ पाकिस्तान में कितनी बढ़ गई है तो वो मैं कोट पढ़ रहा था पिछले दिनों तो उसमें लिखा हुआ था मैडम के शुगर पाकिस्तान में अब इतनी बढ़ गई है कि लोगों ने मीठा बोलना ही छोड़ दिया. अच्छा सो स्लाइड चेंज ऑफ फ्लेवर. आई थॉट के जो टारगेट ऑडियंस होगी दैट मोस्टली बी डॉक्टर्स बट हेयर द हॉल इज़ फुल ऑफ फाइनल ईयर मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स सो फ्यूचर डॉक्टर्स इवन बेटर. So in 15 minutes में if I can manage to sensitize not all of you, even half of you to type 1 diabetes, which is something very close to my heart, then I think my job is done. अगर मैं ना कर सकूँ तो please feel free to give me some feedback. How can I improve? Out of all this that I've got here, if there is one thing you ask me that or I'm really proud of, that's Meethi Zindagi. It's a non-profit organization that I work with and work for. And we work exclusively for children with type 1 diabetes. So I'm going to talk very briefly about, I will whiz through a few slides because there is a very interesting video that I need to show you and I'm sure medical students जो हैं वो अपना WhatsApp छोड़ के video ज़रूर देखेंगे कम से कम. So these are the sort of things I'm going to talk about very briefly. Prevalence क्या है पाकिस्तान में? देखें इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में problem या issue ये है well which is understandable. In the big umbrella and clouds of type 2 diabetes, 30%, 3 करोड़ ये वो बेचारी type 1 diabetes उसके shadow में ना गुम हो जाती है. And type 1 diabetes affects children, young adults. It's not only a child or an adult that gets affected, it's a whole family. It's a lifelong condition. There is no degree of self-infliction in type 1 diabetes. फिर पिज़्ज़ा शवारमे खाने से नहीं होती है, ये मोटा होने से नहीं होती है, ये एक्सरसाइज ना करने से नहीं होती है. It just happens. You just have to live with it. What you can do is improve the care and empower the person living with type 1 diabetes and empower the family to enjoy a good quality of life. So I'm going to talk about prevalence of diabetes, type 1 diabetes in Pakistan. What is the awareness about type 1 diabetes in Pakistan? Public and health professionals. What is the perspective of people living with type 1 diabetes in Pakistan? Which really is not talked about in this country. Type 1 diabetes, education to empower people, children living with type 1, access to and cost of insulin. We know type 1 diabetes is insulin right from day 1 of diagnosis to the day they die. It's like oxygen. So, है कितनी पाकिस्तान में? उसके आगे उससे पहले बात करेंगे. So, type 1 is increasing in many countries, particularly for children aged under 15. Overall increase is estimated around 3%, nothing compared to type 2, which we've already discussed. पाकिस्तान में है कितनी? इंटरनेशनल डायबिटीज़ फेडरेशन कहती है जी पाकिस्तान में टोटल को 6000 के करीब टाइप 1 है. एक्सट्रीमली ग्रॉस अंडर एस्टिमेशन. वाई डू आई से दैट? हमारे पास कोई अपना डेटा नहीं है, हमारे पास अपनी चीज़ें 2-3 ही को रह गई हैं, वो भी पता नहीं कब छिन जाएं, बट डेटा नाम की कोई चीज़ नहीं हमारे पास टाइप 1 में. सो ये जो उन्होंने नंबर्स निकाले हैं, दिस इज़ एन एक्सट्रापोलेशन फ्रॉम 2 थिंग्स. वन, जो हमारे नेबरिंग कंट्रीज़ हैं वहाँ कितनी हैं, जो भी कोई 1-2 छोटी छोटी स्टडीज़ पाकिस्तान से अवेलेबल हैं वो कितनी हैं. वो कहते हैं जी पाकिस्तान में टोटल 6000 बच्चे हैं टाइप 1 के साथ. वाई आई से दैट कि ये रॉन्ग है? इसलिए कि 400 बच्चा तो राहत भाई सिर्फ मेरी केयर में. आई लिव इन लाहौर, आई प्रैक्टिस इन लाहौर, आई एम वन ऑफ द मैनी एंडोक्रोनोलॉजिस्ट हु प्रैक्टिस इन लाहौर. ठीक है, मेरा थोड़ा सा इंटरेस्ट है टाइप 1 में. आई गॉट 400 किड्स विद टाइप 1 जस्ट अंडर माई ओन केयर. 6000, कैन यू डाइजेस्ट इट? नो, आई कांट. This is what we need to do. Diabetes registry का राहत ने बिल्कुल नाम लिया. I think that part of that registry, type 1 registry can be part of that registry, but registry, the only registry we're used to is the Patwari registry. Diabetes registry, हर साल हम सुनते हैं लॉन्च हो रही है. पता नहीं मैं कब इस्तेमाल कर पाऊंगा, अपने लाइफ टाइम में इस्तेमाल कर पाऊंगा कि नहीं, आई डोंट नो. और गाड़ी की रजिस्ट्री, जी, लाइसेंस, ड्राइविंग लाइसेंस की रजिस्ट्री आजकल. डायबिटीज़ रजिस्ट्री कब बनेगी? बट बनेगी तो हमें पता लगा, हम फिर उसमें अपने अपने लोग पेशेंट्स एंटर करेंगे, कुछ आइडिया होगा कि कितने लोग हैं. उसके बाद प्रेवलेंस स्टडी होगी तो पता लगेगा रियल स्केल, व्हाट इज़ द एक्चुअल नंबर्स वी हैव पीपल लिविंग विद टाइप 1 इन पाकिस्तान. एनीवे, some research is needed obviously to estimate the real prevalence. These have to be epidemiological studies, or these would be big studies if done. छोटी कुछ चीज़ें हमने करने की कोशिश की है, but that's like a drop in the ocean. We would need some grants, obviously. So coming to the next step, public and healthcare practitioner awareness about type 1 diabetes. Public awareness, zero. बच्चों को जब तक वो डीके में ना चले जाएं पता ही नहीं लगता पेरेंट्स को कि क्या है. ठीक. हेल्थ केयर प्रैक्टिशनर्स अवेयरनेस इज़ प्रिटी लो एज वेल एज फार एज टाइप 2. आप सबको टाइप 2 बहुत मिलेगी देखने को, ओपीडीज ये वो. टाइप 1 कम मिलेगी. सो इवन योर एक्सपोजर टू टाइप 1 इज़ लाइक. सो पब्लिक अवेयरनेस देखें, पाकिस्तान में टाइप 2 की अवेयरनेस पे कितना लीफलेट्स, फ्लायर्स, बुकलेट्स, वीडियोज़, और वसीम अकरम आ रहा है जी, और ये आ रहा है, और वो आ रहा है, फलाना. ठीक है, बट we need to make the public aware कि भाई watch out for these symptoms in your kids as well. So I'm just going to show you a short video, 3.5 minute की video है. To date, I'm very proud of the fact, to date, this remains perhaps the only type 1 awareness video in this country. Just have a look. We put in a lot of efforts. और please ये note कर लीजिएगा राहत, ये हमें किसी local grant ने नहीं बनाने दी. I got a grant from the Society of Endocrinology UK to make this video. So कहने का मकसद ये है कि it's very difficult to do something really good in this country, but we are still determined. Have a look in this video. If you can be my ambassadors to just spread this awareness amongst your family, these are the things to watch out for. You can still have a healthy life with type 1, then good. Have a look.
big change in our life. Few months back हम लोग कलाम साइड गए, but yes जब हम लोग वापस आए हैं तो डायरिया और लूज मोशन हो गए, जो हमें लगा कि शायद दांत निकालने की वजह से होगा, और उसने पानी बहुत पीना शुरू कर दिया, तो लाइक हमने सोचा कि सडनली लाइक वेदर चेंज की वजह से होगा क्योंकि गर्मियाँ अभी स्टार्ट थी, but then she lost 4 kgs in a week and started urination every 10 minutes.
टाइप 1 डायबिटीज़ के जो सिम्टम्स हैं उनको बहुत सारे लोग मिस कर जाते हैं, क्योंकि बच्चों में किसी को ख्याल ही नहीं होता कि बच्चों में भी डायबिटीज़ हो सकती है। इन सिम्टम्स में बहुत ज़्यादा फ्रीक्वेंट वॉशरूम जाना, बहुत प्यास लगना, वेट का सडन लॉस, मतलब ये कि बच्चों का वज़न 1 हफ्ते 2 हफ्ते के अंदर अंदर जो है कई केजीज गिर जाता है, और बहुत थके हुए रहना। ये 4 वो सिम्टम्स हैं जिनकी आगाही हर घर में मौजूद होनी चाहिए, ताकि किसी बच्चे के साथ ऐसे सिम्टम्स आ रहे हैं तो वो उसको फौरी तौर पर टेस्ट करवा सकें और उसका टाइमली इलाज शुरू करवा सकें।
किसी ने सोचा भी नहीं था कि 1.5 साल की बच्ची को टाइप 1 डायबिटीज भी हो सकता है, जिसकी वजह से हमें इन सब सिम्टम्स को वो फौरन समझते रहे और लाइक उसका दिमाग खराब हो गया। जब उन्होंने हमें ये कहा कि आपकी बेटी को टाइप 1 है और वो डीके की कंडीशन है उसकी, बहुत मुश्किल वक्त था हम लोगों के लिए, और मानो कि शुगर लेवल्स कंट्रोल नहीं थे, उसके तो बस 1200 जब नॉट ओके ही डिडंट फाइल इट, डॉक्टर्स ने मुझे बहुत एक स्ट्रिक्ट डाइट प्लान फॉलो करने के लिए कहा। 3 मंथ्स ओल्ड मैं उसके लिए चीज़ें कैसे रोक सकती हूँ? डायबिटीज खानी है, डायबिटीज बनानी है आज हम। ये वक्त था जब मीठी ज़िंदगी मेरी लाइफ में आई और उन लोगों ने मुझे सिखाया बेसिकली कि अगर डायबिटीज़ आपकी लाइफ में कनेक्ट हो भी गई है तो इट्स नॉट अ डिफिकल्ट टास्क, यू हैव टू मैनेज इट एंड इट्स वेरी इजी। पेरेंट्स होते हैं बुजुर्ग होते हैं सीखने की, फॉर एग्जांपल कि डायबिटीज़ के साथ आपने स्कूल किस तरह जाना है, आपने काम किस तरह करना है, आपने खेलना किस तरीके से है। सो ये तमाम बातें हमारी जो पीयर सपोर्ट है, जो हम लोग एक दूसरे से के साथ दोस्ती करके एक दूसरे का सहारा बनते हैं, उसका हिस्सा। What is this? 1, 2, 3 लग गया।
अगर आपको टाइप 1 डायबिटीज़ है तो प्लीज़ ये मत सोचिए कि ये आपने मांग के नहीं ली, ये हो गई। आप इसके साथ एक बिल्कुल अच्छी नॉर्मल सेहतमंद ज़िंदगी गुजार सकते हैं, और लोग गुजार रहे हैं। शर्त सिर्फ ये है कि अपना और अपनी सेहत का ख्याल रखें, अपनी इंसुलिन टाइम पर, अपनी डोज की जो एडजस्टमेंट है वो अपने डॉक्टर के साथ राब्ते में रहकर करवाएं, अपने ब्लड टेस्ट टाइम पे करवाएं। आप इस टाइप 1 डायबिटीज के साथ क्रिकेट भी खेल सकते हैं, आप इस टाइप 1 डायबिटीज के साथ जहाज भी उड़ा सकते हैं, आप इसके साथ इंजीनियर भी बन सकते हैं, आप इसके साथ डॉक्टर भी बन सकते हैं, और हमारे पास इस तरह के बहुत सारे लोग मौजूद हैं जो
पे although we don't have any again data, but यहाँ पे ये इससे भी ज़्यादा है. You can easily multiply it with 2, considering the demographics we have, considering the education we have, the health awareness that we have. So this is why it's important to empower you guys and healthcare practitioners to recognize it early. इस मुल्क में जो टाइप 1 के बच्चों और उनके पेरेंट्स को डाइटरी एडवाइस दी जाती है, डोंट आस्क, वो बिल्कुल वो होती है जो टाइप 2. टाइप 1 इज अ टोटली डिफरेंट बॉल गेम. टाइप 1 वाले बच्चे जो है ना, ग्रोइंग एज है, दे कैन ईट एनीथिंग. इट्स जस्ट द मैटर ऑफ एडजस्टमेंट द इंसुलिन अराउंड द डाइट पैटर्न एक्सेट्रा. लेकिन अगर आप कभी डाइट चार्ट्स देखें तो डॉक्टर तमिंदा, आई फील लाइक क्राइंग जब मैं वो डाइट चार्ट्स देखता हूँ. सिर्फ उस पर टाइप 2 को काट के टाइप 1 किया गया होता है. It's totally different. So we need to empower or educate our educators as well. ठीक है? There's a lot of psychological element to type 1 diabetes. ठीक? It's the kid. किड के साथ, किड को तो इंसुलिन लगानी है और वो 3 दिन में उसको वो हो जाएगा, उसका फेयर और ये वो फाइन, ओके। पेरेंट्स, फैमिली मेम्बर्स, वो सारे रात पेरेंट्स शुरू में जाग के उसके हाइपो ना हो जाए, यानी शुगर लो ना हो जाए, हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया ना हो जाए। आई हैव हैड स्कूल्स हु हैव हियर, आई हैव हैड स्कूल्स हु हैव सेड टू द मॉम, you have, after newly diagnosed, you have to be present in person with the kid from the time the school starts until the school ends. 3 महीने बाद माँ आ गई, ये सिर्फ एक किस्सा है। 3 महीने बाद माँ आ गई, डॉक्टर साहब मैं क्या करूँ, मेरी अपनी भी कोई लाइफ, आई हैव टू डू द कुकिंग एंड दिस एंड दैट। आई हैव हैड टू राइट लेटर्स टू द स्कूल कि भाई ये ऐसी कोई कंडीशन नहीं है, ये है, हाइपो हो जाए तो ये करना है, वॉच आउट फॉर दिस साइंस। वो 7 बुक्स भेजी जो हमने लिखी हैं कि यार ये। लॉट ऑफ स्कूल्स रिस्पॉन्डेड वेरी पॉजिटिवली, lot of schools responded very positively. So you just need to go the extra mile. Again, awareness, ये वो फलाना. We've done a few sessions with schools as well, जहाँ हमें पता था कि 2-3 बच्चे हमने identify कर लिए, वो type 1 वाले हैं. Again, the management, school management has been very receptive. So small steps. Peer support. Lot of children and adults, young adults, teenagers with type 1, उनके parents हमें अक्सर कहते हैं, even the educated ones, कि do you, यानी जब रेपो बन जाती है, डॉक्टर साहब पूछते हैं, आपके पास आपकी केयर में कोई और बच्चा भी है जिसको टाइप 1 है? And that's why we hold events from the platform of Meethi Zindagi. We get them together for halla gulla, not for education or anything, so that the families meet each other. उनको थोड़ा सा ये तो एहसास हो कि we are not the only ones. We have Facebook support groups as well. जो हमारा मीठी जिंदगी का फेसबुक सपोर्ट ग्रुप है, उस पर टाइप 1 ग्रुप पे we have about 1600 people with type 1 diabetes from across Pakistan. जो हमारा पेरेंट्स वाला ग्रुप है, बच्चों के जो पेरेंट्स हैं, उस पर भी हैव अबाउट 700 पेरेंट्स विद टाइप 1 डायबिटीज़, बच्चे जिनको हैं. सो व्हेन दे मिंगल विद ईच अदर, दे कम टू नो कि यार हौसला होता है, हिम्मत नहीं, उस बच्चे को भी है, उस बच्चे पे मेरा बच्चा वाहिद बच्चा नहीं है. आई लुक आफ्टर वन चाइल्ड. इसी से देख लें कि हमारी सोसाइटी कहाँ है, किस तरफ है. आई हैव वन चाइल्ड हु इज़ द सन ऑफ अ पर्सन हु इज़ एन इंजीनियर फ्रॉम नस्ट. His family members are professors in big public sector hospitals. उसने मुझे खुद बताया कि हमने उनको भी नहीं बताया हुआ. They are medical professors, doctor professors in big public hospital. कहते हैं हमने भी अपनी फैमिली में नहीं बताया हुआ. इतना बड़ा स्टिग्मा है टाइप 1 डायबिटीज इस मुल्क में. उन लड़कियों का, उन बच्चियों का सोचें. हमारा सोसाइटल परसेप्शन ये टाइप 1 डायबिटीज है, इवन टाइप 2 डायबिटीज लड़की is infertile until proven otherwise. This is the society that we live in. Or I have got plenty of ladies who've delivered healthy child with type 1 diabetes. So it's all of you who's going to do that and change the perception. It's not me alone. Conferences, we need to, ये तो international conferences है, international दुनिया holds dedicated conferences just for type 1 diabetes to empower. उनकी तो stage empowerment से आ गया, they need to show them what's latest. But we are far behind. We did an effort about 3 years ago. We did hold Pakistan's first national type 1, dedicated type 1 conference finally, and the hurdles that I went through to do that. अगर मैं आपको story सुनाऊँ तो आप कहेंगे यार अच्छा. Bharal, we did hold one, and inshallah next year we're holding another one, and which has been formally endorsed for CME accreditation by the Society of Endocrinology UK. So लोग क्या कहते हैं, वो बच्चे जिनको टाइप 1 डायबिटीज है, listen to them as well. Look what they have to say. So I did this study the year before. Anyway, I'll just show you results using a validated questionnaire. देखें सुनने तो सही, वो बच्चे बच्चियां क्या कह रहे हैं जिनको ये है. How do they feel about themselves? Likert scale 1 to 5. I'm just taken some bits out of it. So I feel satisfied with how I deal with my diabetes. 1 is totally satisfied, 5 is totally dissatisfied. So देखें 50% satisfied हैं, 50% dissatisfied हैं. I feel satisfied with my current blood glucose levels. Again 50-50 result. इसका मतलब है 50 तो ठीक जा रहे हैं, बाकी 50 को कौन ठीक करेगा, कौन उनको एम्पावर करेगा? हमारी जिम्मेदारी है. कोई ऊपर से तो वही नहीं उतरेगी, सारा फोकस तो टाइप 2 पे है. उस पर भी जितने फोकस के साथ जो रिजल्ट्स मिल रहे हैं, राहत ने आपको दिखा दिए कितनी % राइज है. मैं आ गया जी, बस खत्म. आई एम ऑलमोस्ट डन. The last question was to the type 1s. Do you feel कि एक structured education program, not general education, type 1 diabetes dedicated education program will help you empower yourself? And look, the overwhelming answer was yes. This is where we came up with, well, so internationally, lot of data available that if you do a structured type 1 education program, teach them how to deal with their diabetes, you can reduce the number of severe hypoglycemia, ketoacidosis admissions, etc., etc. A lot of evidence. So what we did 3 years ago was we came up with these 2 curriculum for people with type 1 diabetes, written in lay language, but evidence-based. Not for doctors, it's for people with type 1, both in Urdu and English. It's got 17 chapters. Last, here are some statistics. Type 1 diabetes, insulin lifelong. Average wage, Pakistan, एक human insulin while 700, analog while 1000, test strip अब ज़्यादा हो चुकी है. Test strip 50 रुपए, glucometer 3,500 से 4,000 रुपए. Do the mathematics yourself. एक जो average बंदा है, दिहाड़ीदार ये वो, people come to us at मीठी ज़िंदगी, we run a charity promise of insulin program where we provide free insulin to people who are from underprivileged families. लोग हमें आगे कहते हैं कि डॉक्टर साहब या मैं बच्चे को स्कूल भेज सकता हूँ या मैं उसको इंसुलिन लगा सकता हूँ. And my choice is very clear. Parents की choice very good. I will take him off from insulin because from school because I know कि स्कूल के बगैर वो कम से कम जिंदा रहेगा. इंसुलिन के बगैर वो जिंदा नहीं रहेगा. This is what we are dealing with. Anyway, so we know कि longest journey starts with a single step. We've taken some steps, but we can't do it alone. We need to have action. What needs to be the future? Action plan, courses, conferences, dedicated type 1 guidelines. Involve the community. Community can be a very strong voice in shaking the government. ठीक है, डॉक्टर से गवर्नमेंट शेक नहीं होगी. अगर आप कम्युनिटी को इन्वॉल्व करेंगे तो शेक हो सकती है शायद. Last but not the least, reach out to the pharma world of at least Pakistan, which at least I plan to do next year and rally support around it. कि कम से कम जो टाइप 1 वाली फैमिलीज हैं बच्चे उनको इंसुलिन पे कुछ सब्सिडी तो दी जाए नेशनल लेवल पे. सो इट हैज़ टू बी अ कलेक्टिव एफर्ट. आई नो कि 4 मुसलमान एक सिमत में चबी चलते हैं जब 5वां कांधे पे हो, बट it has to be a collective effort. Otherwise, we'll keep on clinging to straws and remain where we are. Thank you very much.
Any questions? कोई सवाल है तो बताएं. Any questions for Dr. Atif? Dr. Atif, thank you very much for the wonderful talk. And now we will head to our next presentation. Our next topic is cardiovascular risk profile in diabetes patients. And for this, we have chairperson Kamka UK. And she is also consultant endocrinologist in NHS UK. Please welcome Dr. Tabinda Dugal.
A few comments on Atif's presentation because I'm also an endocrinologist and I practice in the UK. तो आतिफ से ये बात करनी थी कि टाइप 1 इवन दो इन द बेस्ट ऑफ प्लेसेस जहाँ पर फ्री इंसुलिन है, फ्री मीटर्स हैं, फ्री पंप्स हैं, वहाँ पर भी बहुत मुश्किल है. सो किड्स डू नॉट कंप्लाई और उनकी डिफ़िकल्ट एजेस होती हैं व्हेन दे आर गोइंग थ्रू puberty and while parents are managing it's fine, लेकिन when they hit puberty they just go off the rails and things do happen. तो मेरा ख्याल ये है कि जो हमने कंक्लूड किया था और जो कि वैलिडेटेड है बाय स्टडीज़ इज़ के उनको अगर वो खुद होश में हैं तो अगर बच्चे हैं तो और बात है, लेकिन पेरेंट्स को भी साइकोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट की ज़रूरत होती है. आई थिंक दैट्स अ बिग पिलर ऑफ सपोर्टिंग दोज किड्स हु हैव बीन रिसेंटली डायग्नोज्ड टू गिव देम साइकोलॉजी. दैट इज़ फ्री और आप अगर लाइजॉन कर लें किसी के साथ तो दैट माइट वर्क. सेकेंडली आई थिंक वो जो सेहत कार्ड है अगर उनसे आप लिएज करें और इंसुलिन का सिलसिला कुछ हो. और थर्डली व्हाट आई वांटेड टू से वाज कि यूके में तो अब सब बच्चों को जो डायग्नोज होते हैं टाइप 1 दे आर गिवन पंप्स बिकॉज दे हैव टू ग्रो एंड दे हैव टू ग्रो फ्रीली. और वो कल के रूलर्स हैं और कल के एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स हैं, डॉक्टर्स हैं, उनको ज़रूरत है इस चीज़ की. तो आई थिंक कि अगर हम उसके ऊपर वर्क करें बच्चों के लिए हमको इस चीज़ पे वर्क करना चाहिए दैट दे शुड बी प्रोवाइडेड विद पंप एंड नाउ क्लोज लूप्स. सो दैट वुड बी द फ्यूचर कि हमारे बच्चे जो हैं उनको स्ट्रिप्स भी नहीं मिल रही हैं एंड द वर्ल्ड इज़ गोइंग टू दैट एक्सटेंट. तो उसके लिए मेरा ख्याल है वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन दैट कि जो अब न्यूली डायग्नोज्ड होते हैं वी शुड वर्क ऑन प्रोवाइडिंग देम विद पंप्स एंड क्लोज लूप्स, जबकि दुनिया में मैसर है एंड AI कैन बी एक्सट्रीमली चीप व्हेन यू डू इट लोकली. सो आई थिंक वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन कोलैबोरेटिंग विद द लोकल. हर जगह AI डिपार्टमेंट है, हर जगह पर है. सो आई थिंक इट्स लाइक दैट. या
While Dr. Tabinda Dugal is signing in, I will echo my sentiments as you mentioned. 2 years ago, I was contacted by one of my friends about one of their family members who was only 6-year-old and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. They saw a very renowned diabetologist in Lahore and they showed me what he'd been asked not to eat. It was like juices, no cakes, yani kuch bhi meetha nahi khana bachche ko. And that's not true for type 1 diabetes, as Atif bhai said. They can eat anything they want. Of course, healthy diet is recommended for everybody, but type 1 is completely different to type 2. दूसरा आपका comment जो coke के बारे में था, type 1 they are allowed to have cokes when they have hypoglycemia, so it should be present. During अगर उनको hypo हो रहा है तो that's coke is one of the type 2s के लिए we avoid it, but type 1s में we do, that's one of the things that they can have during hypoglycemia. Of course, not in routine. Thank you.
Which we know that ischemic heart disease or coronary heart disease is more common in people with diabetes, and it's the major cause of mortality in them. So I thought I'd talk about treatment modalities and how to screen the high-risk patients. So the risk tools for people who have diabetes, there are a few risk tools, and I would encourage you to look them up and use them as well. So the ones that we use in the UK is called QRisk, and it is used for people between the ages of 24 to 83. So most of the adult population, you can use those tools with them. For other parts of the world, there are Smart, UPrevent, and Dial. You can also ask the patient whether they have any claudication, what's their exercise distance, and if they have any shortness of breath, which actually mean that they have any ischemic heart disease that hasn't been identified so far, and also about erectile dysfunction, which is obviously the barometer of furring of the arteries. At the bedside, you can look for pulse pressure, because if there's hardening of the arteries, you would have a different pulse pressure. Prefill pulses you can have a look at, then you can look at ankle brachial index. And if the patient is obese, obviously they're more likely to have ischemic heart disease. Look into their fundi if you can, and then look at the retinal arteriolar narrowing. Also, if they have a calcified aortic valve, you would hear a stenotic sound that would reflect an underlying atherosclerosis. It also helps if you talk to the patient about their lifestyle and their diet, because no matter what medication you give them, there is no substitute for exercise 30 minutes a day for people with diabetes, and specific types of diets. Like they're not special diets, but they're healthy diets. Quitting smoking, making sure that their body weight is healthy, and also that they get enough sleep, because the less they sleep, the more they eat. So if they get longer periods of sleep, they avoid eating irregularly, especially at nighttime. So these are the things that you need to talk to about your patients as well. So find time for your patient and then talk to them about these things. So this was, when I prepared these slides, this had just come out. This paper had just come out about drugs that were used to treat obesity and were also used to treat diabetes. And this was a trial that showed no matter which drug you used, they actually reduced the cardiovascular mortality. So you can see the forest graph that all of the drugs are reducing the cardiovascular mortality. The body weight reduction may be different in all of those drugs groups, but the cardiovascular benefit is there in all of them. So there's an advantage in weight loss, no matter how you get it, whether you get it by lifestyle, whether you get it by diet, or whether you achieve it through drugs. So that always helps for cardiovascular risk reduction. Then there are other factors. So in people with type 2 diabetes, there are several factors that are working towards atherosclerosis. So all of these will eventually lead to atherosclerosis. So if people have type 2 diabetes, they have high insulin levels, they have high lipids, they are obese, and they will get high blood glucose, they will get advanced glucose oxidation products, and they'll have RAS activation, sympathetic overactivity, and everything will lead to atherosclerosis, hardening of arteries. So a lot of things are stacked up about to cause atherosclerosis in people who have type 2 diabetes. So when you control their blood pressure, for every 20 millimeter reduction in systolic and about 10 millimeter reduction in their diastolic, you would reduce their risk. So if there's an increase, that doubles the risk of mortality through ischemic heart disease and stroke. So you can see how important it is to control their blood pressure. And basically, sometimes you have to increase the dose of the same drug, but increasing or doubling the dose of the same drug may help you achieve maybe about 5 millimeter reduction at max, so you might need to use more than one medication. So you need to counsel your patient about increasing the number of tablets to reduce the risk of ischemic heart disease. And the advantages are just not in blood pressure, and that's probably what the patient needs to realize when you're trying to increase the medications. So the levels, what are the levels for blood pressure? 130 by 80. There is medications that are used regularly, that is an ACE and ARB. Please don't combine them. There is no advantage of combining an ACE and ARB. Combinations of other agents, obviously, you can use. And screen your patient for microalbuminuria, which is also an indicator of future complications like atherosclerosis, neuropathy, and retinopathy. So I purposely put the hypertension ahead of HbA1c because I think HbA1c is very hyped, but there are several other factors that would feed into prevention of ischemic heart disease, and that's why I put in hypertension ahead of that. So there were several trials that showed that microvascular complications can be prevented by good control. UK-PDS was the landmark trial. There were some negative trials like ACCORD, which actually showed that if you leave your control, like the glycemic control, for late, in patients who have had diabetes for a substantial length of time, you can actually have negative results. So this trial showed increase in mortality in patients in which HbA1c lowering was tried maybe about 8 or 10 years duration of diabetes. So these people could actually come to harm for improving their HbA1c. So you have to select your patient who needs control very, very carefully, especially early on in their pathology. Advanced trial also showed reduction in microvascular complications and VADT also. So we one negative trial and 3 positive trials. What about macrovascular? Because we know a cardiovascular is macrovascular. So we've got fewer trials that evidence that. So macrovascular, which is the cardiovascular outcome trials, evidenced by UK-PDS, the longer arm of that, it showed that you have this legacy effect that patients, when it went on to EPIC, the UK-PDS went on to a longer follow-up period. It showed that patients who have had better control earlier on in their pathology after diagnosis of diabetes did have better macrovascular outcomes. So there is no direct evidence per se, but there's a couple of trials, and I'll talk about them. So there are trials about type 1 and type 2 both. So as we know that DCCT was for type 1 patients, UK-PDS was for type 2, and Steno 2 also. They showed that the macrovascular reduction was in DCCT for type 1, UK-PDS in the longer trial, and Steno 2. So type 1, more than 10 years, which I touched upon, there is absolutely evidence about risk. So there is no evidence that macrovascular risk reduction would work for them, but microvascular still. So in advance and accordion, we did have that evidence that in people who had longer duration of diabetes. So this is UK-PDS, which followed the patients for a very long time, and it showed that the curve started to separate very early on, and later in the duration of the disease, the curves separated. So you actually, the less tight control is the red line, and the tight control is the green line. So you see that the patients with cardiovascular events or the events did separate out later on when they were being having their surveillance. So the cardiovascular benefits, what were they in the UK-PDS metformin sub-study? So this was a sub-study. People who were on conventional diet, people who were on insulin and SUs, and people who were on metformin. You can see that they had lesser events, fewer events of myocardial infarction, and also coronary death. So metformin is a very good drug, so don't hesitate to use it in the right patient. It has had evidence of reducing the cardiovascular deaths. The primary endpoints, I think in DPP-4 inhibitors, they're a big favorite here in Pakistan, and they have not shown any cardiovascular benefit. They have been tried out in 3 trials, all the 3. Saxagliptin has been trialed out, and sitagliptin has been also trialed out, and they have not shown any cardiovascular benefit. So the DPP-4 inhibitors are weak and glycemic and agents, and they're also very weak in protecting the heart. So there is absolutely no point in using them. I think they're becoming less and less favorite. So these were the DPP-4 studies, alogliptin, sitagliptin, and saxagliptin, and they did not show much advantage, or none of the advantages. So I think a cheaper drug like metformin has got more advantages. So I think old is gold. I think it just kind of applies to this. So this was the trial that this was a publication that showed that. Sorry. Oh, I need to go back. DPP-4 inhibitors do not confer any significant cardiovascular benefit, not associated with any cardiac arrhythmias, atrial flutter, but it shouldn't be the treatment of choice who have established coronary artery disease or have multiple risk factors for heart disease. So newer agents like the GLP-1 analogs and SGLT2s, if they are not contraindicated and the patient can afford them, would be the treatment of choice. So this is the EMPA-REG that came out in 2015, I think the trial came out, and you can see that the 3-point MACE and cardiovascular death, you can see that they're on the right side of the plot. Non-fatal stroke increased in these people, but the cardiovascular events did reduce. This is the canvas, which is the canagliflozin, and it showed the same results. The DAPA heart failure, which we know that has shown that there is a reduction in heart failure when we're using dapagliflozin in patients who have diabetes, 26% relative risk reduction. And then this also shows that they prevent diastolic dysfunction in patients who have got, now we've got new categories of HFpEF and HFrEF. So patients with preserved ejection fraction and heart failure would benefit from that as well. We do have a relationship of heart failure with HbA1c, and we can see that there is an inverse relationship, and we do see that we need to lower the HbA1c. I did say that is one of the risk factors. So the GLP-1 analogs that I mentioned, liraglutide, dulaglutide, exenatide, semaglutide, and oral semaglutide, they've all shown, they're on the right side of the plot, that they do have cardiovascular benefit. This is the ELIXIR trial. Again, this was with a medication that did not show much of a benefit. And how do we need to identify patients with type 1 diabetes and statin use? So I'll briefly touch upon statin use. We should use statins in patients who have type 1 diabetes, and these are the indications in the patients who have type 1 diabetes to use statins in them. Follow-up on statin treatment. So we need to use high-intensity statin and measure the cholesterol lipid profile at 3 months. Follow-up should be for 40% reduction in non-HDL cholesterol. And you can use a second agent or like ezetimibe, or you can switch the agents. We have to stop if the person needs to get pregnant or they are thinking about conceiving 3 months before conception, or if they're breastfeeding. The side effects are there, usually related to muscles, and if the CK is raised 3 to 4 times, we have to stop and then remeasure the CK. Nicotinic acid should not be used in patients who are having primary prevention, which means people who have not had a cardiovascular event, people with CKD or type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Bile acid sequestrant, similar indications. And please don't offer combination with omega-3 with statins. And people who have high triglycerides, they can use these. So you have to look at your patients, have a risk estimate, offer them lifestyle modifications, modifiable risk factors, which are weight, blood pressure, and lipids, individualize their treatment. You can't obviously change their sex or their age, but you can certainly increase the advantage by reducing their weight or blood pressure or lipids. Individualize the treatment, use them in combination with metformin, and roadmap it with the patient. Every patient is unique and they need a highly personalized care, and that is what my emphasis was on this talk, and that's it really.
Madam, thank you very much for a wonderful talk. Do we have any questions? If not, we can move to the next presentation. है माइक है सर माइक दीजिएगा सर
being used in Pakistan too and all over the world, especially in America. They are saying that because once it was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, what we are doing that the patient even who are not diabetic and the ejection fraction is low and they have a congestive heart failure, so dapagliflozin 10 milligram is being given to them. Second thing, that was another thing that you mentioned, the patient who are already having ischemic heart disease, and the role of glucagon like peptide 1, especially the Ozempic, that we are being used even in Pakistan too. So how you are monitoring the sugar level, and at which dose you think the patient cardiovascular risk is much better when we follow these patients with Ozempic? Okay.
And the main thing is this patient tolerance rate, which is whatever the patient can tolerate and whatever is the maximum weight reduction. The HbA1c reduction obviously is the dose as well. So that should translate, all this doesn't translate into benefit to the patient. So if there isn't any fixed dose that will give them the maximum benefit, there isn't identifiable fixed dose, and not to my knowledge.
Okay, that's the knowledge so far we have at the dose of 0.05 milligram. We start with 0.25 once a week, then we bump it up, and when it goes to the dose of 0.5 milligram once a week, the patient start having the weight loss, and the BMI is much better and improving. I just have a question when you give this medicine. My question is, we control the sugar. Where you see the cardiovascular risk is being better? Because glucagon like peptide 1, it reduced 20% mortality and improved ischemic heart disease. And as compared to the empagliflozin and dapagliflozin, they are improving 34%. The trials are being done in America. And whatever they are saying the patient who are diabetic, if they have ischemic heart disease, even they are sugars are controlled, try to change the patient on empagliflozin or the dapagliflozin.
Thank you very much. Now we will move to our next presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Shazeb Khan. Basically, I am a general and metabolic surgeon working as a senior registrar at AIMS and Sugar General Hospital, Peshawar. Today, I am representing here my CEO, Dr. Ziaul Hassan, who is basically an endocrinologist. And the talk for today's presentation is a diabetes care model. Can it be included in universal health coverage? After so many knowledge-filled presentation and lengthy presentations, I will try to make it a brief one, and I will not take more than 5 minutes, inshallah. Okay. So before formally talking my presentation, a little talk about the non-communicable diseases. So the non-communicable diseases have increased as compared to the infectious diseases, and almost 61% of the mortality is due to ischemic heart disease, which is a non-communicable disease. And the thing that we have to emphasize upon is that majority of patients suffering from hypertension and diabetes that are non-communicable diseases are undiagnosed, which is an untreated burden on our economy. So let's make it more clear with this graphical presentation, which shows data from 1990 to 2010. And it's clear here that non-communicable disease is continuously on its rise as compared to the communicable diseases. So although Dr. Rahat has very nicely and beautifully explained the international diabetes data, which shows that in the top 20 countries with most prevalent cases of the diabetes, we are on the top. But the most shocking thing is that 25% of such diseased patients doesn't know that they are diabetic or they are having hypertension, which shows that there is something lagging on part of the awareness or education or what you can call. And World Health Organization in 2019 said that diabetes is the biggest cause of death, killing almost 1.5 million of people. Okay, so it's not just the mortality. The main burden is that of the complications that a person develops due to the diabetes. If we see cardiovascular disease is most prevalent, that is 30% of the diabetic patients are having it, followed by neuropathy. Now, coming to data from Pakistan, we see the eye diseases, nephropathy, foot diseases. So the eye disease, like diabetic retinopathy, is by far the most common cause of vision loss worldwide. Secondly, it is estimated that by 2035, there will be a rise of 13% and the persons having diabetic nephropathy. Now coming to foot diseases. So the prevalence of diabetic foot and diabetic patients is 4 to 10%, but the amputation rate in those diabetic foots are 21 to 48%. That is almost half of the patients having diabetic foot go through the amputation. Now, as you all know, Pakistan is a poor country and most of our population are living below the line of poverty. We have a local study showing that the family that earn 15,000 per month are spending 15% of their monthly income on diabetes. So when we talk of the combating this burden, the first thing that comes into our mind is this legendary person, that is Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim, who was basically from East Pakistan, and he has the most famous quote, no more diabetic patient will die without treatment. He started Diabetic Association of Pakistan in 1954 in the then East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, and it has become the world's largest non-government diabetic care provider. We can see the beautiful picture of his head office. Now, coming to our model, that is AIMS Pakistan model, Abbasine Institute of Medical Sciences. Actually, we have two pillars working side by side. One is state-of-the-art sugar hospital that is in Peshawar, and we offer tertiary care services there, like ranging, we have an endocrinologist, a medical specialist, dentist, and ophthalmologist, and also a state-of-the-art OT, and we offer their major procedures like metabolic and bariatric surgeries there as well, and laparoscopic surgeries. And the second pillar is community outreach that we arrange on a regular basis, and we have three purposes. One is screening, awareness, and treatment of the diabetic patients. So we are in partnership with Diabetic Association of KP. Our mission is providing accessible and affordable healthcare to all. And our main focus is on diabetic and hypertensive patients that are non-communicable diseases. And we are purely a non-profit organization. So now coming to our circle of care that we offer both in our sugar hospital as well as in the community outreach. Starting from the registration counter, then the vital checking and consultation of medical officer, followed by a female medical officer for female patients. Then blood sugar testing, like in community basis, we do only the random blood, while in our sugar hospital, we perform HbA1c as well. And diet counseling by our nutritionist, and followed by foot checking, eye checkup, and dental hygiene checkup. This is pictorial presentation of our activities, the OT picture, and we have the ophthalmologist and community outreach pictures. Now, diabetes and hypertension care and primary health care in Pakistan. As we all know, at BHU level, we don't have any structured program for treating the diabetes. So, the AIMS Pakistan model can be applicable at the basic healthcare unit. All that we need is an optometrist and nutritionist, some additional trainings, and few requirements like HbA1c machine that I think is lacking at the BHU level. So AIMS Pakistan is willing to partner to pilot the concept in the rural population as well. Comprehensive care at primary health level. That will reduce the economic burden for the country, family, and of course of the patient. So our community outreach that have awareness campaigns, preventive measures to include screening for early detection and intervention, and hence reducing the complications, and patient-centered care based on enhancing overall well-being. Between the two pillars, the community outreach and the sugar hospital, we have a good referral system. So that reduce that, if we take into account that referral system, that reduce the burden on the tertiary care level, strengthening and investing in public and primary health care, and creating partnership between public, private, and private setups. Integrating this system into primary care, we need partnership between public-private sectors and private sectors as well. Now, universal health coverage, as in the previous presentation, it was elaborated that it is among the 8 key points that is stated by the WHO. So to ensure all individuals have access to the essential health services, so more evidence and data in this field is required, and AIMS Pakistan have the basic infrastructure, experience, and the will offering its platform to partner for piloting the concept. Again, I will repeat my question. Diabetes care model, can it be included in the universal health coverage? So my answer is yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shahzeb, for a wonderful presentation. मेरा मोबाइल यहाँ पर था, किसी ने अगर उठाया तो वो मुझे बाद में दे दें. So we will move to the next presentation. So we have one question from Dr. Tahir. Mike जो है ये sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shahzeb. He and his team has come all the way from Peshawar to give this talk. Thank you very much.
So we have our very own Professor Dr. Naeem Afzal, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zishan, and I welcome all the worthy guests from across the country and from UK. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming here. And my talk will be brief, and I highly appreciate the earlier speaker, Dr. Atif Munir and Professor Bilal bin Yunus and Dr. Zishan, Dr. Shahzeb, that they are doing wonderful activities across the country for the public benefit and for the community benefit at large. So they are all wonderful activities, mashallah. But my question is that diabetes is still a costly disease. In a national survey, the type 2 diabetes care per annum that costs almost $700 to $900 per year for a patient. And that means that तकरीबन 2.5 से 3 लाख रुपया या शायद उससे ऊपर. अगर हम कॉम्प्लिकेशंस की बात करें तो कॉम्प्लिकेशंस, हर कॉम्प्लिकेशन जो है वो इटसेल्फ एक मेजर कॉस्ट बन जाती है. और कुछ कॉम्प्लिकेशंस ऐसी हैं जो ग्रॉस डिसेबिलिटी, गैंग्रीन, एम्पुटेशन एंड स्ट्रोक, लाइफ लॉन्ग डिसेबिलिटी ये कॉज करती हैं. दे reduce the earning power of the person as well as for the that put burden on the economic burden on the family as well. So what is cost effective? Obviously control blood sugar is cost effective, prevention of diabetes is cost effective. लेकिन हम जब पाकिस्तान में 30% डायबिटीज़ के रेट पे खड़े हुए हैं तो हमें अब कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव प्रिवेंशन से बढ़ के कुछ आगे सोचना है. अब हम प्रिवेंशन की स्टेज से बहुत ज़्यादा आगे निकल चुके हैं. अगर हम 5-10% पे होते तो हम प्रिवेंशन की बात बहुत हाईलाइट कर रहे होते. लेकिन इस वक्त मेरे ख्याल में हमें रेमिशन ऑफ डायबिटीज़ के बारे में भी सोचना चाहिए. Remission of diabetes is not a new concept. 2009 में American Diabetes Association ने इसकी definition issue की थी. And that definition was hyperglycemia below diagnostic threshold for diabetes for at least 1 year's duration with no active pharmacological therapy or ongoing procedures. पेशेंट बिल्कुल दवाइयों से आज़ाद हो और कम से कम 1 साल तक इस तरह रहे, उसे कंप्लीट रिमिशन कहेंगे. पार्शियल ये पार्शियल रिमिशन होगी. कंप्लीट रिमिशन जो है वो फॉर 1 year ड्यूरेशन और प्रोलॉन्ग रिमिशन फॉर 5 years ड्यूरेशन. अब उन्होंने डेफिनेशन को थोड़ा सा चेंज किया है. रिटर्न ऑफ HbA1c टू लेस दैन 6.5% फॉर एटलीस्ट 3 months दैट विल बी रिमिशन. एंड ये ग्लूकोज के क्राइटेरिया के मुताबिक देख लें या HbA1c के क्राइटेरिया के मुताबिक देख लें, लेकिन उन्होंने 1 year को 3 months पे कर दिया है. और बिकॉज over the years they have seen that this is a difficult task, but still it is achievable. UK has taken a lead in this thing. United Kingdom devised, an NHS devised a dietary intervention for reduction of, for remission of type 2 diabetes. They administered 800 kilocalories per person per day diet plan consisting of soups and shakes that was called Cambridge diet plan, that was given for at least 3 months to the patient. That was supervised diet plan, and then after 3 months the patients were continued onto the supervised nutrition plan, that was a maintenance plan. First was intervention phase for 3 months and then was maintenance phase, and the results were marvelous. And the the remission of diabetes, proportion achieving remission, the patients were free of any diabetes treatment. Patients ने सब दवाइयाँ छोड़ दी, और दवाइयाँ किन लोगों ने ज़्यादा छोड़ी? जिनका वेट लॉस ज़्यादा था. जिनमें वेट लॉस 15 किलो से ज़्यादा हुआ, 86% of those they had remission. जिनमें 10 to 15 kg वेट लॉस था, more than half of the patients had remission. 5 to 10 kg 34% had the remission. Less than 5 kg 7%. So आप एवरेज बात कर सकते हैं कि 10 kg से ज़्यादा अगर वेट लॉस होगा तो आप रेमिशन की बात कर सकते हैं. और ये उस वक्त का फर्स्ट ईयर का डाटा था. देन 2 years डाटा केम, अगेन प्रूवन दैट मोर देन 10 kg वेट लॉस इज indicator of persistent remission, and then 5-year data is now available, and that is also showing the same results. More than 10 kg weight loss is a predictor of good remission in diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Again, other measures of remission are bariatric surgery, sleeve gastrectomy, bypass surgery, low calorie diet, very low calorie diet, low carbohydrate diet. Again, all of these cause reduction in weight, and all of these cause reduction in HbA1c as well over 5 years. लेकिन आप देखें स्लीव गैस्ट्रेक्टमी और बाईपास सर्जरी जो है वो रैपिड वेट लॉस कर रहे हैं, लो कैलोरी डाइट और लो कार्बोहाइड्रेट डाइट जो है वो वेट लॉस कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उनका इफेक्ट भी मेंटेनेंस है. तो हमारे पॉपुलेशन जो अगर बैरिएट्रिक सर्जरी नहीं अफोर्ड कर सकते तो लो कैलोरी डाइट और लो कार्बोहाइड्रेट डाइट पे भी हम रेमिशन पेशेंट को ऑफर कर सकते हैं. लो कार्बोहाइड्रेट डाइट की भी अपनी डेफिनेशन है, लो कैलोरी डाइट की भी अपनी डेफिनेशन है, एंड वी कैन डिस्कस इट लेटर. शॉर्ट टर्म इंटेंसिव इंसुलिन थेरापी, जो ही पेशेंट शुगर के बारे में डायग्नोज हो, पहले 3 महीने 6 महीने उसे इंसुलिन लगाई जाए, और उसके probably it is giving rest to the pancreas, and there may be some addition of other medicine that we'll talk later that are pancreatic protective medicine that I suppose that are more beneficial in insulin deficient diabetes and not insulin resistant diabetes. In insulin resistant diabetes probably weight loss is more important, but in insulin deficient diabetes probably this one is more effective, along with basal insulin, along with insulin at the start of disease. So intensive insulin therapy can be given at continuous subcutaneous insulin infusion or multi-dose insulin, and some remission can also be achieved with oral hypoglycemic agent as well. So this is the Libra study that came out in 2015. हम इस वक्त 2023 में खड़े हैं, और 2015 में उन्होंने लीराग्लूटाइड से प्रूव किया था कि जिन पेशेंट्स को एट द स्टार्ट ऑफ डिजीज़ लीराग्लूटाइड दी गई, उनकी HbA1c लेस देन 6.5% and less than 6%, and remission with diabetes, free of percentage of participant with glucose tolerance in non-diabetic range was markedly high in those who got liraglutide at the start. So in creatine drugs, they are good at achieving remission along with insulin. Remission at type 2 diabetes, duration also betters. अगर आप 2 साल के अंदर पकड़ लेते हैं तो काफ़ी सारे पेशेंट जो हैं लेस देन 1 ईयर के अंदर ऑलमोस्ट 80% पेशेंट में रेमिशन अचीव की जा सकती है. लेकिन जो ड्यूरेशन ज़्यादा होती जाती है वैसे वैसे कंप्लीट रेमिशन के चांसेस कम हो जाते हैं, बट पार्शियल रेमिशन स्टिल कुड बी देयर. So positive attributes of remission are weight loss through bariatric surgery, low carbohydrate diet, very low calorie diet, early insulinization, incretin or incretin mimetic therapies, and duration of diabetes less than 2 years. अगर ये पेशेंट आपके पास आते हैं तो आप उन्हें रेमिशन की होप दिला सकते हैं, और रेमिशन की होप का मतलब ये है कि जिस पेशेंट ने अगले 5 साल में इंसुलिन पे चले जाना है, और उससे अगले 5 साल में उसकी नेफ्रोपैथी शुरू हो जानी है, और उसके बाद अगले 5 साल में उसका डायलिसिस शुरू हो जाना है, प्रॉब्ली यू कैन डिले ऑल द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस. सो aim for diabetes remission in those with shorter duration of diabetes. Cost borne in early years saves the much higher cost of management of complications in later years of life. So remission, again, we cannot achieve remission completely probably हम कंप्लीट रेमिशन पे नहीं आ सकते, लेकिन पार्शियल रेमिशन को उनसे कमेंट कर सकते हैं. हम उन्हें कह सकते हैं कि आपकी जो डायबिटीज़ जो अभी आपकी 400 पे खड़ी है और जिस 400 के साथ आपको अभी इंसुलिन की ज़रूरत लाइफ लॉन्ग लग रही है, इसमें हम वेट लॉस, लो कैलोरी डाइट, लो कार्बोहाइड्रेट डाइट एंड पॉजिटिव मेडिसिन्स, इंसुलिन एंड इनक्रेटिन्स, अगर हम ये देते हैं तो प्रॉब्ली यू विल गेट इनटू पार्शियल रेमिशन. यू विल मेंटेन योर डायबिटीज़ with couple of oral medicines for at least 2 to 5 years, and then if you don't stick to the strict lifestyle, then you will again be diabetic and frank diabetic. अगर आप strict lifestyle maintain करते हैं तो आपका यही कम से कम दवाइयों के साथ आप काफ़ी अरसा भी चल सकते हैं. And you not need to go on to injectable insulins or injectable other medicines for the lifelong, and you will save your kidney failure, your heart attack, and your amputation, and your family as well, your family financial burden as well. So before thanking, I humbly present my diabetic foot care clinic at Sir Gangaram Hospital. Dr. Wasif Noor is running that, and these are the pictures we have taken from Dr. Wasif. These are the clear-cut amputations that Alhamdulillah our team, Dr. Wasif and Hafiz Liaquat, has saved them. And this was the gangrenous wound, debrided, and after 6 months of effort, the wound is saved, mashallah. Some more pictures. Very bad pussy wound with edema all around, probably vascular involvement as well, and debrided, and then after many months of efforts and repeated dressings, the wound is cured and the limb is saved, alhamdulillah. Again, ये wound जितना deep है और जितना pussy है और उसमें like it simply seems like amputation, but the wound is cleared and saved, alhamdulillah. ये वाला वूंड देखिए, थंब का वूंड बहुत कॉमन प्रेजेंटेशन है, बोन डीप वूंड है, और ये इसकी डिब्राइडमेंट के बाद की सिचुएशन है, बोन नज़र आ रही है, लेकिन विद द एफर्ट्स ऑफ टीम एंड रिपीटेड ड्रेसिंग्स एंड पेशेंट्स कोऑपरेशन, द वूंड इज क्योर्ड, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. Over the years, we have started Diabetic Foot Clinic on August 22, and now it is from the November 2023. We have been seeing almost 200 to 400 patients per month, and this is our whole year's data. So thank you so much, and I'm available to any questions. I appreciate Dr. Wasif. Dr. Wasif, please come here if you can come and present yourself. Please stand up. Please stand up. Huge applause for this young guy, and he's been instrumental in Diabetes Foot Care Clinic at our Gangaram Hospital. आपको कितने महीने लगे एक पेशेंट को एवरेज करने में?
एक पेशेंट ऑन एवरेज 3 to 4 month इन्फेक्टेड वुंड के साथ, अगर क्लीन वुंड हो तो 1 से 1.5 महीना लगता है, वरना जिस तरह के ये पेशेंट है इसमें 3 से 4 माह कम से कम, और एक पेशेंट था जिसमें हमें 6 माह लगे थे. बस इसमें मैं एक चीज़ कहना चाहूँगा कि डायबिटिक फुट में जो एक मिस्टेक अक्सर लोग करते हैं वो ये सोच रहे होते हैं वुंड खुद ब खुद ठीक हो जाएगा या सिर्फ एंटीबायोटिक, उसके बजाय अर्ली रेफरल टू डायबिटिक फुट क्लिनिक, तो जिसके नतीजे में हम बहुत से एम्पुटेशन को विद अ टीम वर्क प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं. थैंक यू.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Dr. Naeem? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
Remission की definition है वो यही कहता है the patient needs to be off drugs. अगर patient drugs ले रहा है और उसकी diabetes control में है, it's not technically called a remission or control. वो आप उसमें that case you will get it.
ये कि जिन पेशेंट्स जो रेमिशन के फॉलोअप पे हैं मेरे, उनमें ऑफ एंड ऑन जो ही उनका वेट पुट ऑन होता है उनको दवाइयों की ज़रूरत पड़ जाती है. हाँ जी. एग्जैक्टली लेकिन कुछ पेशेंट ऐसे भी थे जो शुरू में स्टार्ट पे ही 12-14 HbA1c के साथ आए थे एंड दे वर नॉट ओबीज एट दैट टाइम.
लेक्चर एंड डिस्कशन मुझे थोड़ी सी ये बात बताइए कि देयर आर डिफरेंट लाइफ डाइट प्लान्स for weight reduction. And we are talking to basically majority of audience here are beautiful young ladies who are very particular about their figures and their waists and their dimensions. Intermittent fasting is a brilliant, I think, idea. But these fat diets, I think they would cause you more harm as compared to benefit in the long run. So as Dr. Aftab said, portion control I think is the best option, and Dr. Ramit agrees with that. Secondly, one more thing is that
While we are waiting for the shield distribution, any questions from the audience? जो है ना, audience ने कुछ नहीं पूछा अभी तक जो हमारे students हैं.
Requesting Professor Sheeni Kaur to conclude the session. There is one person who is the student chair. So this time, Professor Adar Saeed, when he was coordinating with me for these sessions, he said in every session there should be a student. And for this session, we selected Zoina Sarfaraz. So Zoina, can you come forward here? And Zoina has on the research gate, I think last time I saw a few months back, it was 112. मुझे नहीं पता कहाँ तक इसकी पहुँची. So lost count. So any specific researches of yours related to either diabetes or non-communicable diseases? So share your experience as far as you go in research on these topics.
Hello everyone, my name is Swina. So back in the time of COVID, we did study mucormycosis, which is somewhat related to diabetes, and it was very prevalent in India at the time. So I think there were cases in Pakistan, but I'm guessing that they were underreported. So I've done a few studies on diabetes, we've studied obesity, specifically around COVID-19. So, in overweight and obese people, the outcomes were different. They face different issues with thrombotic complications and the other stuff as well. There's a lot of hypertension in Pakistan as well, which is an NCD. There's no cure, but there are a lot of lifestyle interventions we can do. So there's a whole lot of research I've done around these issues. But diabetes is it's in my home. My father has it, and he's in remission actually. So he's lost around 20-25% of his body weight. So yes, I believe everything we've discussed today, it's very important for all of us to apply in our homes as well, in addition to researching about it. So thank you.
Zonia, एक बात तो बताओ. How do you do so much research? How what makes you make it do it?
Started out of nowhere. Then we just keep going as researchers. We find a new topic. We partner with teams actually, partner with universities as well. It's a collaborative effort actually. You can't do it alone. From funding to teams to even your colleagues. I started when I was in med school actually. So just ideas. Maybe when you're studying, you think of topics and just a whole lot of that collaboration. Your university as well, and all these sessions actually. So anyone who's interested, they have to start thinking out of the box. So yeah, that's it.
Can you name a few of your research in high impact journals?
I had one in the BMJ, another in Boom Bulletin. I'm sure Dr. Rad may have seen my researches in the past. The Lancet as well, just every journal you probably heard of. The big names, yeah.
proud and a huge applause for you and not for college.
So I will request our guest chair now, Professor Dr. Shirin Khawa, to say a few words about this diabetes session.
Very good discussion, excellent discussion by Dr. Rahaf. Though much of the participants were not agree with your data, but अगर मैं खुद को सोचूं तो मेरा भी यही आता कि कुछ ज़्यादा है. मैं भी कि यही फिगर हो हम डिनाइल में है. It may be the reason कि ये आपको ये फिगर हो हम डिनाइल में जा रहे हैं. Second concept जो डॉक्टर बिलाव का था, that was regarding the mobile health unit. That is an excellent idea, but it is not an alternative to basic health units or rural center. It is just to strengthen these areas. Jahan tak mera, but it is an excellent idea and it should be adopted at a higher level by our government or private sector. Combined efforts can help it out. Type 1 diabetes mellitus, that is being discussed by Dr. Atif. That is a very emotional type of जो उन्होंने वीडियो यहाँ पे शेयर की, that is very good. और sensitization और public awareness is very important, especially I have seen patients, the children whose parents are always in worries, and this psychological assurance is needed, and which is being very well shown by this video. Cardiovascular impacts of diabetes and complications. Dr. Nabrinda ने बड़े अच्छा उसको explain किया. Dr. Naeem, as Dr. Bilkis said and Professor Naeem also said, ये जो keto diet या ये जो heavy fat diet है, सारी fats ही लेते हैं इसमें, लेकिन इसके बाद जब आप अपना lipid profile करते हैं, that is good. नहीं, lipid profile आपका ठीक हो चुका है. I don't know. Today इसकी डाइट से मैं खुद भी एग्री नहीं करती कि ये लेनी चाहिए, इतने फैट्स लेने चाहिए, हर चीज़ ओमिट कर देनी चाहिए और एक्स्ट्रा विटामिन और मल्टी विटामिन लेते हैं. लेकिन इस दौरान में या इसके बाद जब आप लिपिड प्रोफाइल अपना कराएं तो वो बहुत अच्छा होता है. मुझे डॉक्टर बिल्कीस से मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगी कि ज़रा इसके बारे में बताइए कि इसकी क्या वजह है. बाकी I myself learned a lot and I think our students may have good concept regarding diabetes, its complications, its prevalence, its prevalence in Pakistan. And last but not the least, I would like to congratulate our talented student Dunia. And we are proud of such students. She is very much motivated, and I think most of our students are motivated, and they should follow the same pathway. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam, and I would say all our students are brilliant. I mean, this final year is very special. It's special for all of us. And definitely gardening है, लेकिन इनको अच्छे. I know you're looking at the watch, but we are waiting for the Vice Chancellor Sahab. So he's just about to enter. So वो हमारे दो representatives, they have gone to the DME. So shortly we are going to bring it to an end. एक ये जो मैडम आपने जो point raise किया था ना, there is a concept of fatty streak. This is my point on it. Take on it. Maybe Dr. Rahman Aftab sahab बैठे हुए and Naeem sahab बैठे हुए and we have all senior faculty members. But there's a concept of fatty streak. Like when you were taught in pathology, तो एक लफ्ज़ था fatty streak. किसको पता है fatty streak क्या होती है? It is present at what age? The day you are born. Fatty streak is in the blood vessels, in the wall of your arteries, right when you are born. Now, you have to take care of that fatty streak. And it increases as depending on your genetic conditions, various types of congenital disorders, genetic disorders. various types of metabolic disorders, hyperlipidemia, as you mentioned. Madam, blood levels of the lipid profile, what we call it, it might remain normal, but do we know what is happening to the fatty streak inside? I mean, there's no way short of biopsy to check that out, and especially medium and large size blood vessels. Would we go for biopsy? Obviously not. And what happens, what is important, I think, and I would like my other colleagues to comment on it, to see, I mean, this can be a topic of research as well, that those who stick on to keto or high protein and low carb diets for long periods of time, what is the long-term morbidity in way of cardiovascular events, cerebrovascular events, peripheral vascular disease, and what is the long-term outcome, morbidity? I think this is something which, I mean, this final year can come up with a house of shru karne walo, inshallah ta'ala, after a few months. So, you know, you can come up with this, and we do not know what is happening to the atherosclerotic process occurring in the blood vessels. So I would like Dr. Rama to comment on this as well, and other colleagues.
The low carbohydrate diet, the evidence now goes about 15 years. And there is some suggestion of not only reduction in weight, reduction in glycemia, but also improvement in cardiovascular outcomes. We do not have histological evidence of whether it improves atherosclerotic disease or not, but it does in fact get translated to improvement in cardiovascular outcomes. So there is some benefit. It is not clear what Atkins or ketogenic diets do, but there is a suggestion that they do improve cholesterol levels, they do improve blood pressure levels, they do improve glycemia, and they do improve weight. All of that we can extrapolate that will improve cardiovascular outcomes. We've talked about fats being bad. I don't think all of that is true. I think all of that hype in the 60s, 70s was all related to the big companies and corporates who wanted to sell initially cigarettes, and then they wanted to sell the cokes and fizzy drinks. तो उसकी वजह से जो bad marketing है, that's been a problem, and we've been switched from desi ghee and butter to olive oil, canola oil. I'm not saying they are bad, but overall it is now being suggested that carbohydrates, especially the refined carbohydrates, the sugars, they are a lot worse than fats. So anything that reduces the weight, anything that reduces effective carbohydrate load will improve glycemia, metabolic, and cardiovascular outcomes. I hope that answers your question.
There should be more research on it.
I agree.
And this can be something which we can take up, especially in our population, and especially in our, context of our specific foods that we take, and specifically our lifestyle.
I absolutely agree. All these researches have been carried out in the Caucasian population. Number one, there should be local data, and the data should go long term, not just 5-10 years. We don't know what happens 40-50 years down the line. We don't know if these people will develop dementia. Who knows? So, what we know is that government encouragement, but I'm in complete agreement that there should be more local data on this, and I'm happy to get involved in having this conversation. Absolutely.
So I'm being told that there are 2 minutes left. He's ending up the shields in the auditorium. So right from there.
That is for the impaired blood glucose levels. I also have to see. Metformin should be used or not should be used. Just I am keeping myself on weight maintenance and low carbohydrate. Should I also start metformin or not?
My personal preference is to stick with the lifestyle modifications. Stick with what is working for you. Metformin can add slightly. Metformin also have GI disadvantages. About 10% of people can have GI side effects. So if you are sticking with your diet, if you're sticking with your lifestyle, if it's working, just stick with it. If at any point you feel like it's not working or you're trying to starve yourself out of the food, then there is role of metformin definitely. Hope I've answered.
We welcome our worthy Vice Chancellor again to this diabetes session, and I will request all the chairs for this session, Professor Bilkis Shabir, Professor Shiri Khavar, Dr. Rahat Ali Tony, Ms. Zoina, to please come on the stage and take their chairs. We will first distribute shields to the speakers, followed by the chairs. And I will... So I will request first of all Dr. Shahzeb Khan from AIMS Peshawar to collect his shield and certificate from our worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Khalid Masood Gondal, please. Rahat Ali Tony, please. Our next speaker was Professor Dr. Naeem Afzal. Ataf Munir has already left, I guess, and we will. I will request VC staff to give shield and certificate to Ms. Zoina Sarfaraz, our student chair for this session. Our FJ chair for this session was Professor Dr. Bilkis Shabir, and I will request VC Saab to give her shield and certificate. I will now request Professor Dr. Muhammad Aftab, Head of Medical Unit 3, to receive his shield. And I will collect my shield now. My name is Dr. Zishan.
So much. It was a wonderful, very fruitful session. Very fruitful, very interesting, very updated, and it has definitely led us to think on points and think on things we can think upon and research upon. So inshallah ta'ala, we are very grateful to our respected Vice Chancellor Sahab, and I'll request, sir, a few concluding comments from you and words of wisdom. Thank you.
Concluding में तो मैंने सिर्फ थैंक यू कहना है सारे स्पीकर्स का, लेकिन जो सबसे ज़्यादा मुझे अप्रिशिएट करना है वो तालियां बजाने वाले फाइनल ईयर को करना है। नईम अफसल आए तो मैंने कहा ये सबसे ज़्यादा पॉपुलर हैं। फिर प्रोफेसर बिल्कीस आई, मैंने कहा ये उनसे भी ज़्यादा हैं। फिर आफ्ताब आए तो वही तालियां। तो लगता है तीनों मेडिसिन के प्रोफेसर इक्वली पॉपुलर हैं इन फाइनल ईयर। और अभी फाइनल ईयर ने क्या करना है, या जो पार्टिसिपेंट है क्या करना है भला? अभी ऑडिटोरियम, क्योंकि देयर विल बी अ क्विक कप ऑफ टी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए और फैकल्टी के लिए अलग है। और क्विक कप ऑफ टी बेशक आधे पी लें आधे ना भी पिए या सारे पी लें, लेकिन आफ्टर द क्विक कप ऑफ टी विल गो टू द ऑडिटोरियम। बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉक है, क्योंकि जब डायबिटिक मेटाबॉलिक सिंड्रोम में मुब्तला हो जाते हैं तो बैरिएट्रिक सर्जरी एंड रोल ऑफ रोबोट्स का आजकल आ रहा है। रोबोटिक सर्जरी पे बात होगी और कुछ एंडोक्राइन पे भी बात होगी। सो आफ्टर 15 मिनट विल गेट टुगेदर इन ऑडिटोरियम। थैंक यू।